You are destined for great and unfortunate things.
The shadow of Rome is vast, and you will yet die under it, to the roar of the crowd.
Why are you here?
Because I trusted in the honor of a Roman.
You have a woman.
Taken from me when I was captured.
I see things in men that they themselves have lost. I give it breath until it ignites. How many men would you kill to hold your wife again?
I would kill them all.
Gladiator does not fear death.
Gladiators' virtues extend beyond the arena. As lovers, they're said to be ravenous beasts.
Make him do it again.
I swear to be burned, chained, beaten, or die by the sword. They cheer for blood, and they shall have it.
A man must accept his fate, or be destroyed by it.
Well, indeed. And our fate tonight is to discuss Spartacus, Season 1, Episodes 11, 12, and 13. So we're going to pack quite a lot in this evening. Let me bring on the first of my wonderful guests, my regular co-host for this particular spot, Luca Loser.
Hey, buddy. Just finished up stills for 13, almost done, but 11 and 12 are done.
Is it me, or do you have more beard than when I saw you last?
I swear, it's how it happens. So I'm finally growing up.
Next, the man who we can't tell whether he has a beard or not because he's inside man. Hello, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. I'm looking forward to next Sunday when we do our Warriors of the Wasteland, or whatever I called it, Warriors of the Apocalypse or something I've called it. Our B-movie Mad Max thing. So
yeah. Should be a good one. Really should be a good one. Yeah, because there's plenty of them.
Finally, the man who is fast on the fingers with the Wikipedia section on Rome. It's Darth Plato in the house. How are you, sir?
Is that better, Mickey? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, of course, mate. Always. By the way, I've got my new T-shirt on today, so I hope you guys can see this.
Very snazzy.
It's Rebel Scum. Kind of cool, right?
Like her legs, yeah.
So, well, we are the Outcasts after all. So, that's one of Drunk 3PO's because I do like the stuff he does. And again, that's supporting a company called Nine Line Apparel, which employs predominantly, I think maybe even exclusively, ex-American veterans and servicemen, and anyone who serves in the military, especially doing something for the aftercare of the world's soldiers. I always think they should be supported. Yeah. So let's move on to the show. We're going to get... Now, do we want to do this episode by episode, or shall I talk through all three and then we'll go through? What do we think?
Well, I mean, personally, I think episode by episode.
Yeah? All right.
I would agree, yeah.
All right, let's do that. Yeah, because, I mean, otherwise you have to listen to me rattle on for a long time, and no one wants that.
No.
So, all right. So I'll do a quick breakdown of the first one. So we have... episode 11, episode 12, and episode 13. These are all season 1. Episode 11 is called Old Wounds. It's directed by Glenn Stanring, written by Daniel Noof, Dan Filile, is that pronounced? And Patricia Wells. So we open on Navarro's corpse, kind of being given its due, and the whole thing is in the wake of Varro's death. Batiatus has a meeting with Spartacus, kind of because he knows that it's weighing heavily on Spartacus's mind. Spartacus wants all his winnings from that point forth to be paid to Batiatus's widow. And it's funny because Batiatus promises he'll match that money, which we know is bullshit. We know he's not going to do that, but he says it proudly like it's a reality. In the interim, Batiatus has schemed with the help of Asher to kidnap the magistrate, the character played by the actor John Back, who kind of destroyed his aspirations for political office in the last episode. Really great scene. In the interim, Spartacus falls ill. He starts getting a fever. He's seeing images of Varro. So it looks like Crixus, meanwhile, may in fact lead the Primus. Asher meets again with Salonius, kind of sowing the seeds of the plot and talking about Batiatus's plans. And we're not really sure if Asher is planning to betray Batiatus or not. And I think that balance is kept really well right till the end. So with Calavius missing, no one knows where. Of course, Batiatus has got him locked up in a basement. Batiatus actually gets to open the Primus at the request of Calavius's wife, which is quite funny. So Spartacus is not well enough to attend the Primus. So Crixus enters in his place, but he's booed when he enters the arena. Crixus gets the crap knocked out of him at first, but ultimately achieves victory. So he wins the audience of the arena back on his side. Spartacus continues visions, seeing his wife, conversations with her about his destiny, this kind of thing. Asher, meanwhile, sets up Polonius for the murder of Calavius in a really clever scene. He delivers Polonius to the basement, and then retreats himself. And Polonius, thinking that Calavius is alive because he's got a hood on his head, removes it to discover that his friend has got his throat cut just in time for Batiatus to arrive on the scene with Calavius's son and reinforcement. So Polonius is basically set up to be standing over the body, holding a dagger. That's a fantastic scene, that whole thing. And he's standing next to Batiatus. So Salonius sees that Asher has set him up. Spartacus, in the meantime, is in hospital. Call it hospital. It's not really even a hospital. The medic area, the medicus area.
Okay.
Sitting with a couple of uncomfortable tables and a weird bearded man that you really want to cook you soup. But the cart driver, who has also been injured, is in the same bay as him. And he realizes that the cart driver doesn't have a wound where he said he had it when he was attacked on the road delivering Spartacus's wife to the Ludus. So Spartacus attacks him, chokes it out of him that Batiatus, in fact, ordered the killing of his wife. So Spartacus returns to the Ludus to train. Batiatus, I am myself again. At the end of that episode. Bit of a cracking episode, has to be said. Lots of plans, schemes upon schemes, quite a few things. Let's delve into our usual topics. This first one will probably be quite short.
Gladiator does not fear death.
Gladiator's virtues extend beyond the arena. As love.
So one of the things I've noticed with these 3 episodes where history is concerned is History Bro and Darth were constantly reminding us that a Lannister was really like quite a low person in society. They were not someone who was looked upon with any degree of respect by the upper classes, as it were. And there are several lines of dialogue in these 3 episodes that reinforce that, as well as, of course, as the magistrate looking down on Batiatus's plans. So I like the fact that that's all seeded in there, even though Batiatus is a big character. The reality is he would be looked down upon quite a lot. I don't really have anything else to say about the history for this episode because it's all fictional story stuff, and we've kind of covered a lot of it before. Darth, did you have anything to chip in?
Well, not about that in particular. I wanted to comment about the whole plot, but we can wait on that if you like.
Well, we're talking about story now, so if you've got something on the plot, let's do it now.
I have a problem with the verisimilitude of the idea that they're going to keep Calavius down in the sewers undetected until the big surprise, because the whole city is looking for them. Well, they're just looking for Calavius. I mean, so what's to stop someone from thinking, hey, let's go look down in the sewers? So what if somebody goes down there and they say, oh my God, what's all this? And as soon as they pull the hood off, they can say, Batiatus did this. What's to stop that from happening?
Well, I mean, I think Batiatus has probably killed him already.
He was shown alive pretty far into the episode. It wasn't until the very end that he died.
But because reasons.
Yeah.
Verisimilitude versus your reasons.
It's a good point, but that's the kind of plot loophole that I can live with. Not like a Rings of Power plot loophole.
Well, that's not a fair comparison.
No, it's not. That's a wide berth comparison.
Well, look, if I'm looking at something like Laurel and Hardy and they're moving the piano, I don't really think, I don't believe the verisimilitude. I don't think about verisimilitude at all. I'm just laughing my ass off. In a scene like this, I'm trying to apply it to a real world situation, and I just don't believe that this harebrained plot would work. I think a better thing actually would have been what you see Batiatus say to Glaber later on, and that is maybe Licinia's remains will show up on your villa. Well, that's what he should have done with Calavius, is just dispose of the body and make it look like Salonius was the one that tried to dispose of it, and that would have made more sense than during this whole sewer scheme.
It's not as good as his son seeing Polonius holding the dagger over the body of the father, though, is it?
Sure.
And also the hunt.
Shakespearean.
Also, the hunt is underway, isn't it? The hunt is underway for him. So
yeah.
Well, that's right. That's right. The longer that goes, the greater the risk of detection.
But in terms of the episode, I don't know how many hours or even days that the hunt takes place over. It seems like quite a short period of time. I can live with that personally, but I get why you're vexed by it. Inside Man sort of comments on the plot story for this episode.
Yeah, I thought it really started to fall into place. I mean, it plays fast and loose with history. So I don't think we really need to go there too much. But in terms of the way everything seems to be driving the plot now to its conclusion, I think we're having those building blocks, rapidly stacking up. I think it was very, very interesting. Really, really well done, actually. And I have to say, again, one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, I just love the look on Polonius's face when he realizes how he's been done. It was a great moment. I really feel sorry for him because even though he's conducted his own schemes, he's kind of got more class than Batiatus.
Yeah. And I thought this was the first time that we really got to grips with Spartacus himself. Most of the other episodes did seem to be, and I think it was something that you pointed out a couple of times. I think quite a few people have pointed this out a few times. That it really was an ensemble. Other episodes were ensemble pieces. This one, I think we really got to see a rebirth, if you like, a rejuvenation of Spartacus. Especially the line, I am myself again. This almost Renaissance man has sprung from these dreadful, dreadful situations that he has uncovered.
Yeah, this is kind of a Spartacus Batiatus episode for the most part. John Back is really good though in the supporting cast. I love
Really good.
when I always like it in a confrontation when, and the best example of it is Dennis Hopper with Christopher Walken in True Romance. When a character realizes their number's up, they know they're going to die.
Yeah,
they're like, well, fuck this, I'm going to go out. Like I'm gonna call you as you are. Knowing that their death is already a certainty, and his character does that here and calls out Batiatus for everything that he is, which is great.
I mean, the build up to it really, from the, I got to be honest with you, I felt Batiatus's disappointment in the episode prior to this, and there was an element within me that sort of thought, this guy is actually getting what he deserves. He's sort of getting his just desserts. The fucking snob. Talking down to a character that suddenly started to appeal to me. But this is what the character of Batiatus, how it's been written so well. He has this sort of push and pull on you, where one minute you really do like him and you think that he does actually have some kind of redeeming qualities.
Yeah.
However, he will ruin that every time. The next turn, he just absolutely, utterly destroys it. Any kind of like and respect that you actually have for him, he destroys that, and that's how it's so brilliantly written. It's I can't say enough about the writing actually in these episodes.
Yeah,
terrific, really terrific writing.
Yeah, this is not the Kirk Douglas Spartacus for sure. And I mean, I like the fact that he's pretty infallible. So any other comments about the story? Blue, anything you want to chime in?
No, it's like the Inside Man said, it's Batiatus. He shows something like, oh, I care about Varro, I miss him, he's almost like a son to me, and he warms up with Spartacus. Like, you want to believe him, then it's like, then Spartacus has this fever dream of like, his guts there spilling gold in Varro's ghost, and his dreamlike state is like, the thing is, that's all you are to him. That's all we all are. We're just money. We're just product.
Yeah, I'll add something. Aside from Spartacus's experience with Spartacus's brief stay at Harrenhal in this episode, and seeing all these visions, I want to follow up on what Inside Man said about the character of Batiatus. I agree with everything you said, but I'll add this. Batiatus is a good exemplar in this series of the ancient concept of what was called the Sword of Damocles. And if you've never heard of the Sword of Damocles, it's basically someone sitting in a hall without a care in the world, think that they're on top of the world, and they look up and they realize there's a sword hanging on a thread just above their head, and it's about to fall any second. And they realize that in their horror, just how vulnerable they really are. This story, this Batiatus' fate in this series, we haven't got to that yet. Bear that in mind when we start talking about the last episode and the fate of Batiatus. He is a man living under a Sword of Damocles.
That's a really a very, very good way of describing it. A very interesting way of describing it. And with every turn, that thread is just starting to get thinner and thinner and thinner. I completely agree with you. Yes, it's a really good way of describing it.
I thought that was cool CG. I mean, you can tell, but just the guts coming out.
It's another very well choreographed fight.
Especially as I was taking this, Lance, I'll tell you one thing: people can, like, it's history, bro, love or hate the storyline. The Crixus fight, the choreography is fantastic in this episode. It's really good. Yeah,
we've got Jamma and Jana Banana in the chat. So if you guys started a band, it would be called the Jamma Lama Jana Banana Band. Just an idea. I'm just planting a seed there. Let's get back to the show. Anyone else want to say anything about the plot before we move on to the cast and characters of episode 11?
No.
I swear to be burned, chained, beaten.
Good. Well, we have got 3 episodes to get through,
Yeah.
so it's good that we're going slightly faster than normal. We don't have any new characters in this episode. I think everybody in this episode we've met prior to this. I guess the big guest actor is really John Bach.
What about Raskos? He becomes a common character after this.
Which character?
One of the gladiators named Raskos. I think this is his first episode, or maybe with the episode before. I don't remember.
Are you talking about the guy with the bald head?
Yeah, the goal.
No, he's in. He's only got a tiny bit of dialogue, but he's definitely in the show prior to this episode.
Yeah, he becomes more prominent in the sequel.
Season 2. Yeah. Yeah. So great acting, some fantastic dialogue. I'm probably gonna give my props for actor of the week on this one. For me, it's got to be Craig Walsh Wrightson again, who plays Polonius. I just love his character. I love the way he plays the fool, and we've got a great scene with him opening up the next episode as well, which is also fantastic. But yeah, I rate him. Such a great actor. I mean, everybody else in this is really good. Asher's particularly slimy in this episode as well. But yeah, I'm going to give it to Craig. But yeah, and I get strangely gooey whenever Katrina Law's on screen. I don't know why. Inside Man, what about yourself? Not necessarily the same question, but more about...
Yeah, I think Batiatus is the one for me. I just love that.
He makes you go gooey.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. He makes me
you weren't liking John Hannah when we started.
You're absolutely right.
This.
Yeah.
He's won you over.
Yeah, he's won me over. I've reached a little bit of a turning point now. So yeah, his character really just, it's evolved so well.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, I can't stand the character, but I love him. I love the character, but I just can't stand him.
He's great fun to watch, and I watched the commentary on episode 13, and one of the first things that Stephen DeKnight said on it was, "God, we love writing dialogue for John Hannah." And they had Peter Mensah and Katrina Law were both on that commentary as well.
Yeah.
And they were both quite humble about their own abilities. And Stephen DeKnight was saying, "You've no idea how pleased we were when we were getting the rushes, because you don't know what the dialogue's gonna really, if it sells it, until you see it in the edit suite."
Yeah.
And he was saying, that every time stuff came in, they were more and more pleased. So yeah. So Blue, for you, your man or woman of the week?
Yeah, still John Hannah, because as Inside Man said earlier, man, just so far of all 13 episodes, not my favorite character, but this guy's got the best dialogue, I swear.
Yeah.
I mean, hands down. Every time he talks, I'm just laughing. He borderlines over the top and cartoony, but then also, like, it's like he said, it's every time you want to love the guy, he's such balance, and like I love him, then I hate him, and I love him. It's like,
yeah,
in the end, because he's a very good villain, because he's only interested in himself and to a lesser extent his wife, but all he cares about is this political office. But I like the fact that he set the guy up where he walks in, oh my God, look, his throat is cut. Who could have done this? And the way he set up Salonius, like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
They walk in on, they called him like, dude, yeah, that whole sequence right there.
Yeah, it's a really good scene.
I said, but yeah, as his just like, yeah, it's things like that, like, you and your noble cock eaters and the way every time he says, like yet again, like the gods the gods take cheeks and spread them apart and shove it in.
Yeah, spread ass and cheeks and place tongue and ass or something like that.
Yeah, it's like his lines are they're so cartoony, but like I love him because it's his performance makes it, man. Like, so yeah, definitely Batiatus, man.
The just in the chat, the band is being formed. They're just sorting out the pyrotechnics contract for their first gig. So it's good to know. Good to know I've started something.
See what he's done. Yeah, we want front row tickets, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah. We would, I want one of those access all area passes, like in Wayne's World.
Yeah. And I don't want to be kicked off the site with a 503 error either. When I get to the checkout.
Yeah, indeed. Darth, did you have a favorite character or actor in this?
I'm gonna go
it
with,
might be that you have one of each.
I'm gonna go with Salonius. It's just a really good bad guy, and he's not really a bad guy in this episode. He's the condemned. He's the what they called damnatio ad
memoria. Damnatio memoria. Yeah,
you can tell Craig Walsh Wrightson is an actor with a lot of stage experience.
You remember what Salonius' experience in this episode is what Titus Pullo experienced in the one episode in Rome where he put out the arena. It's basically the same circumstance. The difference is Salonius doesn't win.
It's funny because when he was 24, he founded January Productions, which was Australasia's first multimedia creative consultancy and production house, which partnered into a top advertising agency known as the Campaign Advertising Group. And then 10 years later, he and his partners sold the UK interests in Campaign and became Saatchi & Saatchi New Zealand with Craig as executive director.
Right.
So he's written and produced and occasionally directed over 100 major television commercials. He's also a composer. And as an anchorman, he's also fronted a primetime series. So, I mean, this guy's got quite a few weapons in his arsenal in terms of. I mean, he's got such great range as well. So, just kind of funny to think a guy that ran an advertising company, ended up playing Salonius.
Yeah.
So that's 2 votes each, and as I'm king, that means Craig Walsh Wrightson gets it for this one. So, does anyone want to say anything else about the characters or the acting?
I thought it was spot on, just truly spot on, really good. Everybody really outdid themselves.
Who is the actor that played Pericles?
That's a good point. I've got the cast list here, so let me have a look.
Pericles is the name of a very famous Greek figure in history. He was one of the leading figures during what's called the Peloponnesian War. Well,
now here's something. On IMDb, he is uncredited. So he's not in the cast list.
Probably a stunt performer, I should imagine.
I would think so. I mean, normally stunt performers with featured roles are usually listed uncredited on IMDb, but somebody obviously hasn't bothered to check. So, I'm just kind of scrolling through the stunt credits here to see if there was anyone credited. No, not really. I mean, there's a stunt team of about 20 guys. And that was another thing that Stephen DeKnight said on the commentary. He said, the stunt team really took a lot of knocks. They were like walking around with massive bruises all the time, which I guess is part of the course. When you're doing close quarter combat and you want it to look good.
Yeah, and of course, there's no way of of padding yourself up when they're performing these stunts either.
Well, not when they're running around in little loincloths.
No. It's
well. Talking of the fighting, let's cover this.
They're said to be ravenous beasts.
Make him do it again.
And episode 11, I don't think there was much in the way of Jiggy Boom Boom.
Oh, there's none. I'm
No.
so sad. So sad.
Really, it's the violence is really the fight with Pericles and Crixus. Extremely well done. I don't think it's the fight of the series. It might be interesting to reflect back which one we think is the best action scene. Yeah, and there's kind of, you've got sort of, there's a lot of blood in kind of dreams and visions and stuff, isn't there? And wounds and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I commented out already. It's the weirwood paste.
Darth, do you feel the amount of gore is appropriate in this episode? Too much or not enough?
Hey, with a series like this, you gotta just dial it to the 9s.
So not enough.
It's okay.
Blue?
Yeah, same. I mean, like I said earlier, the choreography is fantastic, and just like it's you can tell it's CG, but I just say that part when the guy's guts or intestines are coming out, it's just so cool looking. It just it matches the tone of this show. And when I was making stills, that's really cool. It's like there's only so much that they can do with practical effects.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only really gore of this episode. It's just when Crixus is fighting in the arena.
Yeah. I think there's some stuff in some dream images.
Yeah.
The murder of his wife and
Try to find it.
that
Wait,
kind of stuff.
does Aurelia come back in this episode? Or was that the next episode?
Next episode.
Yeah. So no sex to speak of in this episode. Terrible. Do we have
They cheer for blood, and this will have it.
favorite line of dialogue or favorite scene or both? My favorite line of dialogue is the cheeks part and puts tongue in arse line. My favorite scene for this episode is I think is the Polonius betrayal. I just love that whole scene, and it's really nicely done. There are some other cracking scenes, but that's the one for me. Inside Man. Well, what about yourself?
Well, I like the whole build-up to the discovery of the body in the sewers.
Yeah.
I think the build to that is really quite good. I kind of suspected what was coming, and with Asher being the shit that he is,
Yeah.
Double duplicitous, this guy.
Yeah. I think kind of the reveal of Asher, when Asher sort of reveals exactly what his intent and motive really are. I would say that.
Blue.
Yeah. No, the big reveal at the end, like in Sebastian with Asher betraying, but just like the fact that Batiatus set this entire thing up, and he walks in, just he's got the guy's corpse and his throat cut. Like, oh no, it's him! And like, man, what a massive right here! What a massive betrayal! Where it's like, yeah, the guy's throat cut, and everyone walks in, it's him, and like, you son of a
Yeah.
Slonius, and how could you? And especially, and he does it right there in front of also the kid. It makes it that much worse. Where it's like, oh yeah, so look, the man who killed your father's right here. It's like, and like that look in his face, that like he's looking at Asher and him like you, because he was trusting in Asher, been paying you the entire time to betray Batiatus, and like, no, the whole thing's been a double setup. Like, oh man, because at this point as an audience member, you're like, is Asher really going to trade Batiatus? And like, I thought this was the end of Batiatus by them, like the guards finding the old man alive, like you said, because he was alive earlier. Because he bit the guy, he bit the guy's throat, and like it was a double betrayal. Like Asher never waived his loyalties for Batiatus, and I'm like, that was okay. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, I mean, I think the groundwork is really well laid for that. You, as an audience member, I remember not being. I wasn't expecting. I wasn't sure which way it was going to go. So they did quite a good job of maintaining that deception for you. Don't think it was obvious. Darth, Any thoughts?
Before I answer that question, I want to ask about the scene about the big reveal. What if Salonius didn't follow Asher to the sewers? What would have been the backup plan? That's something to consider. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
As far as the specific answer to your question about the best scene, I'm actually going to go with the scene where they were handing over the body of Varro to the widow, and the dialogue between the widow and Spartacus, because Spartacus, after all, was the one who killed Varro. That whole dialogue, that must have really stung, because he has to stand there, he has to take it, and he can't gainsay it at all. That must have been hard.
Yeah, which of course, and she's pissed at him because it's like technically speaking, I mean, well, she wasn't there, but like, you know, Varro kind of technically ended his own life. I mean, it was because he did grab Spartacus' sword, but you know, everyone's, for her mind, it's like you're the reason this happened for. It's you. Like I said, like, yeah, he loved you as a brother, and you betrayed him. Because that's how she sees it.
Yeah, it is a really powerful scene, but it gets overshadowed by the reveal at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. What would we give this episode out of 10?
Well, I'd definitely say a 9, because I know what is coming next. So yeah, this is out of the 3 episodes, this is probably my lowest rated episode out of the 3 that we're doing. So just as a warning, yeah. So this is a 9, which I think is pretty fair.
I'll give it a 9. Blue?
Yeah. Oh, same. There's a lot to unpack this episode, and
Darth, dare we ask what your rating is?
I'm going to give it a 9.
All right.
You're going to give it a 9. Wow, 36 out of 40.
Yeah.
That's a pretty high score for episode 11. All right, let's move on to episode 12 then. So episode 12, Revelations,
That's
pretty much in terms of time, takes place more or less a week later.
There's 12.
Directed by Michael Hurst. The writers are Brent Fletcher, Miranda Kwok, Stephen DeKnight. And the opening scene is Badiatus kind of taunting Salonius.
It's up, Lance.
You know, that he gets his kind of final say with him. One of the things I like though is Salonius never completely loses his shit. He still he will always be classier than Batiatus, and I like that. So we cut to some shots of Crixus kind of regaining his position in the arena, killing a few people, and then Salonius is brought into fight, and he's told he's introduced as the enemy of the people, and who faces him, but Spartacus. Spartacus has got a great line in the fight where Salonius kind of, you know, shows that he knew his shit when it comes to fighting. He's old, but he can still handle himself. And Spartacus compliments him, says, "You are not without skill." I really like that moment. They have a bit of dialogue in the back and forth. And Spartacus kind of plants the seed that, listen, you know, it's not going to end well for Batiatus. So he gives kind of Salonius a
heads up, let's just say.
Yeah, heads up, quick death. And so there's this kind of nice thing that Salonius is kind of smiling just before he dies. And as his head's decapitated and it slow motion goes through the air. I don't know if you've got a still of that bit.
Oh yeah, everything's ready.
But
it's usual Spartacus over the top, and it so fits the brand of this show.
I mean, it's kind of interesting seeing him.
That dialogue, he's like, "You're Asher," even when he's licking my ass.
Mm.
Yeah, it's gonna catch up to it.
Yeah, this dialogue scene is superb. It's two great actors as well. Kind of, powerhouse actors with a scene like this really elevate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Plus, Crix is looking at the woman he loves, Lucretia.
Yeah, all of that stuff going on is pretty nice. And then sort of Batiatus is setting himself up to be the magistrate's son's mentor, even though he actually killed his father. Pretty good. Dan Candy History Bro is back with me doing Battle of Britain in September.
And this guy's for his age, an older gentleman, in pretty good shape considering.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, he's not, obviously not gladiator shape, but he's not like not fat or anything.
He had to work out a lot when he was running that advertising agency, So, yeah, I like this fight. It's actually one of my favorite fights in the season.
Yeah, it was a surprise. Yeah.
Like you said, it's so one sided, but Spartacus gives me that little nod. You know what? It's like you got some skill. I'll give you that, man.
Yeah, and I also like all the dialogue that's going on in the box, the royal box, as it were.
Even the kid, why isn't Spartacus ending him real quickly? Because he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask something.
There. Lithia reveals her husband is on the way, and this seems quite an important piece of information. All right, let me plow through the rest of the plot.
Yeah.
So, Spartacus beheads Salonius. Asher is given a new position in the villa, new clothes, and he's now going to be sort of residing upstairs as the sort of number one advisor to Batiatus, a position which he probably thinks is higher than Batiatus thinks it is. Spartacus talks with Mira and then confides with her that Batiatus ordered the death of his wife. Navia is nearly caught bedding Crixus by Domina, who just manages to get on the right side of the door before she, where have you been? And then this is the brilliant part in this episode because, of course, Asher hates Crixus because he stopped him from becoming a gladiator and he's belittled him ever since. So because Asher is being given gifts by Batiatus for, of course, setting up Salonius and so on, he chooses that gift to be Navia, knowing that this is the person that Crixus loves and he's gonna have her. Dominus is really upset by this because she believes Navia is still a virgin. That bit's hilarious. Spartacus, meanwhile, sort of feigns loyalty to Batiatus that during various conversations considers stabbing him at one point, but decides to wait for the right moment. He argues with Mira over Varro's wife. Asher, in the meanwhile, confronts Crixus when he's on the right side of the gate again, locked gate. Crixus says, "You were never a gladiator." And Asher says, "Yeah, everything I am, I owe to you," which I thought was a really good line. Varro's wife, meanwhile, is given a job in the villa as an act of charity by Batiatus. Lithia arrives without Glaber, but Glaber is in Capua, and she insists Batiatus travels to Capua to greet him on his arrival. Lithia pronounces that she is going back to Rome, which, of course, gets her out from under the metal of Lucretia. Batiatus rushes into town, greets Glaber, only to be dismissed by him and treated as a lowly person. Again, he sees this Lannister as someone who's very, very much beneath him, and it's good that they did that. Glaber and Lithia, meanwhile, plot. He wants to know what promises were made to Batiatus on his behalf. We discover that Varro's wife had her child aborted, and she lost all faith. Glaber and Batiatus have a conversation about political office, and he's looking for Glaber's support if he decides to put one foot in. And unlike the people before him, Glaber doesn't immediately dismiss the idea, wanting to know what's in it for him if he does lend his support. This goes to show he's a better tactician. Batiatus wants to take him to the Ludus to show him the gladiators, and he says, no, the stench was so bad last time. Let's have all the gladiators brought before me here. So the gladiators are brought, and then Glaber has his best men, his Roman guard, personal guard, fight Spartacus, who's only armed with a wooden sword. He bests about 9 of Glaber's best men. Pretty cool action scene, actually. Asher then flaunts with Naevia in front of Crixus as that fight comes to an end. At which point, Crixus completely loses his shit, goes to attack Asher in front of Glaber, which makes Batiatus look really bad. Asher reveals that Crixus slept with Naevia first in front of Domina, who then does her nut. Events force a confrontation between Glaber and Batiatus. And then Inside Man's favourite scene came up, which is Lithia getting punched in the face by her
glorious.
husband.
Glorious.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that. And when he finds out that Batiatus is kind of forced to play his hand and reveals the hand with the ring on it of the woman that Lithia murdered. I think. Remind me of that character's name.
Lacinia, wasn't it?
Was it Lacinia? That's right.
Yeah.
Who is the cousin of Crassus. So now we know this. I mean, I think we knew that before, but it underscores actually how important this woman is and that she's disappeared. So it's interesting because Lithia denies it, and Glaber could have just said, I believe you, you know, F off. You've obviously killed her. I'm going to say you killed her. And no one would have disbelieved him. But he looks at her and he can tell she's lying.
Yeah.
Because he knows how manipulative she is. It's a really good scene. And he doesn't like being lied to. So, yeah, she's in the shit.
I kind of get the impression that he's obviously seen her lose her mind in that way previously, you know, maybe with a slave or something like that.
Yeah. That could well be the case. So Naevia basically gets stripped of her rank in the villa, thrown in the dungeon. Crixus is whipped for attacking somebody and breaking ranks. And the Roman sentry who had the key lifted off him by Naevia is beheaded. So, you know, Batiatus being very forgiving as always.
That was Hector, by the way.
Hector, yeah. Yeah. The one that we saw previously who got his face partially burnt. Now, the interesting thing, one of the things I really liked in this was when all of this stuff comes out, and of course, Lucretia's really upset because now she knows that Crixus has been sleeping with another woman. Batiatus just tells Lucretia straight out that he's always known about her and Crixus, but he put up with it because he thought it made her happy. When you think about the psychology of their relationship in other scenes, that makes perfect sense. Crixus and Naevia have a quick scene. Her hair has been cut drastically short for real by the looks of things. Naevia then tells Doctore that Barca was in fact murdered. Tensions in the Ludus really escalate when Glaber leaves, I guess, kind of a platoon of his men behind. And then we're sort of talking with the Germanic brothers, and Spartacus kind of, you know, words out, we're going to make a move soon, and when we do, we'll kill them all. Dum, dum, dum. End of episode 12. Okay. So, I don't think we need to get into the history unless somebody's suddenly thought of a wizard.
There is one thing that did sort of trouble me, maybe.
Okay, great. Say it after.
Gladiator does not fear death.
Gladiator's virtues extend beyond the arena. As love.
Inside Man, what troubles you this evening?
Tell us.
Well, I'm vexed. I'm terribly vexed. and that is, who gave Batiatus the authority to pass sentence on Salonius?
Well, that's a good point. But the magistrate, I tell you who gave him that. The magistrate is dead. So the son would have assumed that position.
Oh.
And of course, the son's brought down and seen his father killed, dagger in hand.
I'm not sure whether the position would have actually. I don't think the position would have actually passed down to his son.
No, it wouldn't have.
Who would it have gone to?
But it would have gone to whoever appointed the magistrate in the first place. You'd have to have what we call a pro magistrate in this case. So whoever was on the scene, that was the assistant to the magistrate, would assume the role of the magistrate until otherwise replaced by a magistrate. So whoever the magistrate's assistant was would take over. So whoever was responsible for law and order in Capua would make that decision. Not it certainly wouldn't have been Batiatus. I don't think Batiatus would have been in the seat at all.
Yeah,
I
mean, he has zero authority.
I suppose the thinking is, from a dramatic narrative point of view, you've got to bring in a new character who comes in to sort of handle that position. It's a bit late in the day to bring a new character. We're in episode 12. There's only one left to go. And it's kind of them getting wheeled in and wheeled out again for the sake of one scene, maybe two. So I guess...
Honestly, it would have been a judge, honestly.
Yeah.
Remember the scene in Rome where Pullo was at the judge and he just admits it and says, well, there you go. He's guilty. Send him to the arena. It would have been something like that.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough. I think that's a legitimate criticism. I can see why they didn't do it, just for economical storytelling.
Sure. I'm gonna mention the part about the angle where Mira was talking to Spartacus and saying, well, if you kill Batiatus, then all the slaves are at risk. That was a real thing, actually, in those days. And going back to the earliest days of the Republic, that is, if a slave raised a hand to the master, then all the slaves perished. That was a long-standing thing. There was an attempt to moderate that during a time, it was called the Lex Aquila, that tried to smooth out how this all worked. And basically, slaves were like what they would call a non-person, which is just legal language to deny humanity to people who have humanity. And so slaves were like they were things. They were more because they're not persons. So what are they? They're things. So when you see this, all right. So when you see the scene where Crixus goes nuts in the house and Gleba reacts, his reaction is actually very appropriate to what a Roman probably would say. It's like, what kind of master are you? Have your slaves run around like this? It's like it's going to someone's house and having someone's dogs attack you like out of the blue. Like, don't you train your dog? It's exactly that sort of reaction. It's actually very realistic. It's also what would have happened to Ilithia back in the episode with Segabax. So Segabax attacked Spartacus. So Ilithia actually should have been held responsible. Because if a master takes a slave to attack another person or another owner's slave, then the person who gave that command was liable, not the slave. So Segabax technically shouldn't have been punished.
Yeah, of course, we know why that wasn't the case, because they need Lithia alive because they're using it to manipulate.
Yeah, I know. I'm just adding the history versus story. That's
sure. No, it's all good stuff. Story wise, I think it's a pretty tightly written episode. There's not a single what I would call wasted scene. Every scene has a purpose. I don't think there's very many, if any, wasted lines of dialogue. Everything again tells us something about the story or something about a character. Inside Man, your comments on the story and plot for this one?
Yeah, it moved really, really quick. There were so many, hence the name of the episode being called Revelations. There were so many revelations in this that, again, those pieces of the jigsaw are really falling into place. Those little bits and pieces that are enabling different characters to that motivates those individual characters. Yeah, they're really starting to build now. I mean, this is really the episode where it builds and builds and builds, and you're waiting for the big explosion. The acting just amazing. Yeah, just terrific. Just
Well, we'll
terrific.
talk about the characters and the actors in just a second.
Sure.
Blue, anything more to say about the story, or from your vast knowledge of Roman social and political minutiae?
That's your guys' specialty. No, great storyline. Yeah, we're seeing Crixus. Crixus, like his storyline with his faux girlfriend and everything. This is the beginning of the end. The stuff with Asher. There's so much to unpack this episode. Some great dialogue and the revelation. Leroy called it before because Lucretia was always in the background, kind of doing stuff with Crixus. We never really knew. And at the very end, he's like, "Yeah, I've always known." I'm like, "Oh shit!" Because up until this point, we're 12 episodes in. We never knew if he actually really knew. And Leroy's like, "No." He's like, Battiatas knows. I'm like, "Does he?" I'm like, she's always sneaking.
Yeah, there's a scene in an earlier episode, I forget which episode, where she says something about Crixus, and John Hannah takes a pause before he responds.
Oh.
And when you look back and you watch it, knowing that he knew all along, you can see that he's built that in there in a couple of places extremely subtly.
Yeah,
but he just takes a beat occasionally when she mentions Crixus. There's definitely one very prominent moment where he does that. There might be two.
Yeah, well, even too in Spartacus, because he knows that you killed his wife. He's right there. He's ready to kill him, but he pauses. Varro's wife's right there. He didn't plan on Varro's wife being there to pay off her debt. It's like, oh damn. So it's like, no, I can't kill him right now in front of her. Like she's right there. Like,
well, it's also possible that he didn't know, and he just says that he did because it makes him look like he was in control all the time. It's like a defense lawyer.
I think
good point.
I mean, it's possible, but I actually think he knew. And they had the relationship where, they were having sex with other people in front of each other all the time. So, yeah, I think he knew. But, hey,
Yeah, of course,
it would have been quite. I'm sorry, Blue.
Oh, sorry.
It would have been quite something if Crixus and Lucretia were together and Battiatas just kind of strolls in and say,
"Yeah,
hey, can I have some too?" That would have been, yeah.
Well, as I said,
I'm glad we didn't have a scene like that.
One thing, she's always sleeping with him whenever he left the villa to go out to market or when. So she always made sure, like, she's very meticulous how she never got caught. But like, it shows he's got spies everywhere. His slaves are always telling him something. Something's always going on.
Yeah.
Not to be a nerd, but I don't think Glaber would have this kind of authority that he's exercising in this episode. He leaves men almost like a garrison inside Capua. The idea of a man like a legatus that had the authority to exercise imperium or some sort of diplomatic authority, it ends. It's like it ends at a certain place, like the Po River. You can't just run around Italy and just say, "Well, I'm a legatus. I can just do what I want." They're kind of making it look like that, and that wasn't really the case. Once his job, whatever his job was, that made him a legatus, it ends as soon as he comes back into Italy, unless he's fighting in Italy against some sort of episode like Pirates Landing or something like that. Yeah, that's stuff like that happened all the time, but. I don't think he would have just walked. He would have just rode into Capua and just sort of took over the place.
Fair enough. Anyone else want to say anything about the story before we move on?
No.
Very well written, very tight, very economical, and yeah, nothing wasted.
And it certainly earns its title because it's called Revelations. and there are about 6 revelations in the episode. Navier telling Doctore that Barker was murdered is one.
That was another thing I wanted to ask is why does Navier wait till that moment to reveal that to Doctore?
Well, she doesn't get many chances to speak to him alone when there aren't other ears listening.
True.
So
But she could have said it to Crixus then.
Yeah. True.
I think when she was a Crixus, she had other things on her mind.
Yeah, I mean, she probably didn't want to deflate his cock, so.
But also, I think this is the episode where things are starting to boil. They're really starting to boil. The next episode is where the pot literally boils over.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's because she's sensing that there is something in the air. There's something else going on here.
Well, I mean, the other revelations are Asher revealing that Crixus slept with Navier first, Domina learning that Navier is in fact not a virgin, Domina learning that Navier is in fact sleeping with Crixus, Batiatus revealing to Domina that he's always known that she's sleeping with Crixus. So, yeah, there's Varro's wife revealing that she's had the child aborted is another one.
Doctore learning about Barca, Glaber learning about Lycinia.
Yeah.
So
of course, and
it does earn its title, and
it really does.
So,
it's like the tapestry is ajar.
I mean, I wouldn't say revelation, but almost betrayal. Like Lucretia, she thinks that what's her name? I can't. Like these two are her best friends. Like no, the hand, all that little secret between us. But yeah, here's the hand. The entire time is blackmail. Like oh man, like these two are so conniving. Like I thought we were friends. Like no, we're not. I kept the hand the entire time.
All right, let's move on. Cover this.
Others are said to be ravenous beasts.
Make him do it again.
So the main fight really is actually Spartacus with Salonius at the beginning of the episode, and there is also a sex scene between Glaber and Ilithia.
Yeah,
when they're kind of plotting. Most plotting seems to take place either before or after coitus in the world of Spartacus. So if you're going to plot,
maybe even in the real world, maybe I should imagine.
That's true, actually.
Yeah.
Not a poor reflection of times. Yeah, I mean, I really like this fight. Love this whole sequence. Violence feels justified to me. The sex scene, I'll let Inside Man, who's going next, comment on his first experience of feasting the nakedness of his favorite actress in the show.
Obviously CG, but still cool shot.
Yeah, no, I liked it. Guts hanging out.
It's
well done. I mean, if this show didn't have the comic book tone that it has, those effects would feel out of place.
Just real quick tangent for you guys because you both work in industry. Is it cheaper? I'm guessing because obviously practically you could build like a big fake belly with like prosthetics coming out. Is that just cheaper to do it like that?
It really depends on what aesthetic you're going for. I mean, this kind of aesthetic is definitely cheaper doing it CG. It's also less time consuming as well.
Oh yeah.
So post-production, whilst everything else is going on, so for example, ADR work, other additional dialogue recording, and editing, you'll still have these scenes that are being added and worked on by a relatively large team. But I mean, we're not going for realism. We are, as you say, Blue, we're going for very much a graphic novel, a comic book style of television. And I suppose if you want realism, if I'm honest, I do think that actual prosthetics work better every time. But this isn't realism. This is a hyper reality. Yeah. But yeah.
So it works.
Very much.
All things considered, and it would have saved considerable shooting time.
Yeah.
Let me ask something.
There you go.
I'm being somewhat facetious here, but so if Ryan Johnson had directed this episode, does that mean Salonius would have won?
Of course. There you go, Lance.
Yeah. No, Spartacus would have died at the beginning, in the first episode, if Ryan Johnson had directed this series. He wouldn't have made it past episode 1.
Interesting.
That's a cool prospect, though.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's a good makeup job.
So, well, let's move on. Yeah, that's good. I actually think that probably is his real face made up, and they've frozen that image, and then they've CGI'd him off the rest of his body rather than a cast.
I thought someone just would have built a head and
No, they may have done. It may be a cast of his head, in which case it looks really, really good. But I actually think that they've just made him up to look dead, and then they've taken footage of it, got him to keep extremely still, and then they've CGI'd the rest of his body away.
I mean, I have a feeling that they may have there may have been like a scan of his face, maybe. And when the decapitation happens, that they've actually got, as you say, maybe a plate shot of him there, and then of course, the scanned head, does its business.
Yeah, so everything's background. So it's just him standing still, and then just they digitize right here. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple ways that they can actually achieve the same effect. So many different ways.
Wow.
But how they did this one, I couldn't say which method they actually used.
Does anyone want to say anything else about the sex or violence?
Loved it.
Big thumbs up.
Yeah, big thumbs up. Yeah.
This is Sparta.
That scene is a powerful scene too. Crixus getting whipped. I mean, you can feel that man who Bennett, man. Just like you see the lashes.
Yeah.
So, man,
yeah.
Honestly, he got off easy there. Honestly.
Oh, yeah.
And only because he's worth money, Spartacus, in the arena.
The whole actually, come to think of it, Asher, I think counts as a freedman now.
Yeah, he is.
Not a slave. So Crix has attacked a freed man.
Wow.
Yeah, good point. Well, talking of powerful moments, let's cover this bit.
They cheer for blood, and they shall have it.
My favourite line of dialogue is Spartacus to Salonius, "You're not without skill." Simple line, says a lot about Spartacus' respect for him. There are other great lines in the episode, but I like that one. Favorite scene in this one is really hard because there are so many, because each revelation scene is quite powerful. Lucretia losing her shit is always fun to watch. The whole Asher revealing Crixus slept with Navia first. But overall, I think I'm probably going to have to say the scene where Batiatus rushes all the way into town to meet Glaber, and then Glaber proper talks down to him. The dialogue in that scene is really good, putting Batiatus in his place. And of course, the first line I think is, "We expected to be met at the gate."
Oh yeah.
So, and of course, that's Lithia's fault. She's deliberately made sure he's late, so in order to fall out of favor with her husband. So she's still trying to manipulate the situation. So those are my two favorite bits. What about yours, Inside Man?
There are quite a lot, actually.
Well, if you can only pick one,
I'm going to boil it down. I'm going to boil it right down. I would probably say it's just before Spartacus executes Salonius, and his response to him, so when he basically tells him that, don't worry, the job's in hand, more or less,
Yeah, I
so
do really
Batiatus
love
is
that
next. Yeah, I
that
thought that was
moment.
terrific.
Actually,
And he's, the satisfaction really that he's going to his death knowing that Batiatus is really going to get his comeuppance,
yeah,
and quick.
yeah, yeah. I underestimated you clearly.
Got the first one.
Lou?
Oh god, I picked it. It's at 6:36 because after Batiatus sees Glaber, his exact line right here. So once again, the god spread the cheeks at the
Yeah.
It's a ram cock and fucking ass. Yeah.
I busted. I was like, I gotta save that for the stream. I just busted out laughing.
Yeah.
It's just he's just like, oh, God.
Yeah. By the way, that's another review. By the way.
Yeah, that she's pregnant. In
Yeah.
fact, I don't think did I fail to mention that in the breakdown. I think I did.
Oh well, and of course,
Yeah, she's taken ill, and then she sort of collapses, and then she's in pain, and
of course, as it happens, you're like, gee, I wonder whose it is.
Yeah, she's with Crixus, baby.
Mm.
The gladiator is already kicking and screaming, longs for the arena. Do not fucking speak. Darth, have you got a favorite line or scene, or both?
I think the scene has to be when they're in the villa and everything just the whole thing just collapses, and it starts with Crixus just going nuts and going after Glaber, and they're howling and screaming about the whole thing, and then which he unfortunately he gives it away for Navia, so he does hurt Navia by doing this.
Yeah.
And he doesn't mean to, but he just that's just the way he is. He's like a dumb jock, really.
Yeah, you're right.
And so the Crixus outburst and Lucretia's reaction to the whole thing and throwing Navia to the gun, that whole scene combined, I think, was just something you could watch over again and just and really love it.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it's the kind of, that's the moment where everything just begins to collapse, isn't it? It starts to implode. This sort of implosion of all these different things.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Lance, me, I wanted to have my favorite scene be Spartacus because of the fact that he took a practice sword, and first off, his practice sword versus actual swords, like you bastard, and then makes it worse as then he starts now 2, now 3, now 4. It's like, man, this
and he just does them all in. That's a really good
and even
scene.
at the end, then eventually the practice sword breaks. He takes the butt and he's beating a guy in the face with the butt. And he's just like, I just dropped 9 of your guys with a freaking wooden sword, and they have armor on and actual swords. This guy's in a loincloth and beat the shit out of all your guards, man. Just showing how good Spartacus is compared to your guys. I'm like,
it's not unreasonable either. I mean, think about it. I mean, these guys spent every day of their lives perfecting their bodies to killing machines. It's not that hard to believe.
No.
For me, my favorite part was Doctori right there because he says, give these two this moment. He was our champion once. Show Crixus respect, and I'm like, I love that because Doctori, like, he's been so impartial. Like, he sees what's going on, but he still has position. But the fact he does that for Crixus and but these two, they're real love. Like, man, he's just the scene between Crixus and Navia, like he's crying his eyes out. Look at him. He's just like, and she's all torn apart and I destroyed us. And just the way he says it, where he's like,
that's a powerful stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we skipped over characters and
well, I mean, that was my scene, Lance, right there.
Yeah, I have to give it to these two. The acting in this scene, I really loved it. I thought it was very raw. And it's you don't often get to see Crixus this weak, even when he's been weak before. He's still got a composed voice. It might be softer, but this is the first time we really kind of see him weep, I think.
Level of vulnerability.
Yeah,
I think throughout the show, he has we get these little kind of tiny little hints of his vulnerability, because of his love for Christ, I've forgotten her name. What's her name?
Navia.
Because of his love for Navia. That's his Achilles heel. Always will be his Achilles heel. And we do get tiny little hints of that. Terrific.
Yeah, there was also it's presaged in the episode where they fought Theocles, just when they were in the gatehouse, just before they went onto the sand.
Yeah.
And Crixus says to Spartacus, he asks him about his wife. Do you do this for your wife? And Spartacus nods, and Crixus says, well, maybe there's something more to the arena after all. That presages this moment.
Yeah. Very good point. Funny the Rings of Power had such dialogue and prose.
Yeah.
But that's a topic for a different stream. In terms of, it's a difficult call to make because everybody's so good in this episode, and it is an ensemble episode as opposed to the last one, which was slightly more focused on 4 characters. Who would you give the acting pundits to? Inside Man, go first.
Crixus, all the way.
Manu Bennett.
Yeah, he's just absolutely a splendid actor.
Yeah, I really rate him.
I just love the way that he's been written. I really love the way that he's been written and the way he plays it. And he's just amazing, an amazing actor, and a character that I've really warmed to in quite a way that I didn't think that I would warm to, but but he's definitely the one for me. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's funny because I've only seen Manu Bennett in I think 1 or 2 other things. I really want to see more of his work.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what else we can maybe check out. Blue, what about for you? Which of the cards?
No, I go with Inside Man. It's like he's been my favorite character this entire season, and just
I'm not sure Inside Man's in the show. Do you want to specify a character name, perhaps?
Yeah, of course, Crixus. No, he's been Crixus only because besides Man Bennett being a great actor. No, this entire series is my favorite character. I respect the other actors, but this scene, I said this episode, that scene right there, because these two, the only besides Spartacus and his wife, the only real love story is these two, him and Navy. It's just seeing him after he's been whipped and defeated, and just like, and he says, like, I will win my freedom. He's like, I will find you. He's given a new purpose, and yet look at that. Her hair is cut. She's scarred in the face, and it doesn't matter what Lucretia did to her. Like, he's really in love with her, and it's like, I don't care. Like, she's my new purpose, which later on will lead into, like, now he finally has a purpose. Because remember, this is everything coming forward. He's at the spot now where Spartacus was at in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Now he finally gets it, because remember, in episode 1, he was just a stupid gladiator. He cared about Navia, but like, not now. He's really in love with her. Now he's got something to fight for, so now he can relate to Spartacus.
Yeah, those are all good points. But if I'm going to give my answer now, I'm actually going to go with Glaber, because I just thought that he just did a really good job of just becoming the big bad of this episode. The way he delivered everything, the way he just looks at the whole scene where he just sort of looks at the box and about it with contempt. And then the box is open. Then he looks at Alithia, and then he just boom. I just thought that the whole thing was just really powerful. And what does he do after that? He leaves his men behind. Now, I don't know about you, but when he did that, that signaled to me that he wasn't leaving them there to keep the people in the household safe. He's leaving them there so that he can use them as the instrument of his vengeance.
Or is he leaving them there because to keep his wife there? Is that another purpose? Is that an alternate purpose?
That's definitely part of the reason that they're there.
I think that they're there because he wants to liquidate that household.
I didn't think about that, Plato. That's wow. That's deep. I didn't think about that, honestly. I thought just because he's like, he knows his wife messed up, and like, you got me, I'm just gonna leave. But
He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to leave all his men there for that. He needs to leave enough men there to have a real fight.
Good point.
Well,
but the good thing about Glaber is that even though obviously he's not in every episode, we know that he's there. We still feel his presence even when he's not in an episode.
It's a bit like Sauron in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You never see him in a physical form except at the flashback at the beginning, but his presence is constant throughout the story. Glaber as Spartacus's nemesis is again likewise,
Yeah, he's kind of his ladder, isn't he? He's the person that is the ladder, the thing that's going to help him climb.
Well, there's 3 people responsible for Sura's death, and Glaber is the ringleader.
So Glaber is played by the actor Craig Parker, and of course, many people will remember that he also appeared in The Two Towers, and also Fellowship of the Ring. He's the elf that says the dwarf was so loud we can hear him in the dark.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was the same guy. Yeah.
He's kind of
that was Haldir.
Yeah, Haldir. I always remember thinking, God, that elf is super camp, and he kind of played him with this quite camp voice. But I liked the portrayal of him because it's the first time we hear an elf speak. I think in that movie.
Yeah. And Two Towers, the first time we see an elf actually get killed.
You mean aside from Elrond?
Aside from Elrond, yeah. Aside from him, but it more of like a regular guy, and even the regular guys have that kind of aloof
and Arwen.
She's not a regular guy. She's a girl.
It's just an elf.
And when does she? She first speaks in the dream, and again, she's very aloof.
Yeah, she doesn't count.
So
you need to watch the movie again, refresh your memory.
Mate, I was at a rave yesterday. I was dancing for 8 hours. Give me a break. So I'm absolutely knackered today.
Look, he remembers like what time zone he's in.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it was a day rave, so it was from 2 until 10 o'clock, but it was wicked. It was great. So I might show you some footage of it in a second.
Yeah, could you do a demonstration now? Here, Blue, give us a beat.
Yeah, please.
Demonstration of what?
Oh, you're right.
Of the music. Well, I can.
Damn. Anyway.
We can do that.
Let's get the Spartacus.
Hang on. Let me take this down for a second. I'll you can leave that on maybe. Where's the volume on here? Oh yeah, there we go.
That's right. It's a Spartacus wrap-up party.
Yeah. So it was like being in the movie Blade Runner. It was wicked. So good times were had by all. That was in fact the Mr. and Mrs. House who organised that event are coming on the channel for an interview soon.
Nice.
I'm going to be talking to them about they've been DJing on the scene for a really long time. So
yeah, I was actually thinking of the scene in Blade where the sprinklers.
Oh yeah.
I love that opening. God.
Fortunately, there were no sprinklers. I do always check that and look for kind of weird neon signs on doors and things when I go to these events to make sure.
One Blade.
Dan, is that a scene from Blade? Let's get back on topic.
Yeah, I'm down reading my mind.
One more to go, boys.
Yeah, so we so that Darth was saying Glaber. Did everyone give their favorite actor?
Yeah.
For me,
with this guy,
this is a hard one as well. But I'm probably gonna give. There's no weak links in this episode.
No.
Everyone's great. I mean, generally, although not all of us agree, generally I think the cast are pretty consistently good. Probably going to give it to Peter Mensah, who plays Dr. Ray, because now things are coming to light that he didn't know before, and you can really see the struggle in his conscience, and he doesn't have a lot of dialogue to play that out with. But Peter Mensah's got such an incredible presence.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the emotional journey definitely goes to Manu Bennett, the Crixus storyline. The scene with him and Navia is really quite touching, and they really earn it. Like I said, because you've not seen him break down to that level of vulnerability prior to this, so it's earned. Take note, writers, it's earned. That's very important.
I mean, good line. Yeah, we tells Crixus, embrace it.
Yeah.
And plus,
I love Peter Mensah as an actor. I sort of, I want to see him in more stuff because he's just got this incredible presence. He had a really small part in 300. He's the messenger that gets kicked into the, the well right at the beginning. You remember that? This is Sparta, and they kick him in. That's him flying into that. That well.
I remember that. Actors seem kind of pudgy though.
Well, maybe he wasn't as he hadn't gone to boot camp then, so he's done some video work. He was in 6 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's done 19 episodes of a TV series called Midnight Texas, which I haven't seen, but has a pretty good rating of 7.3 on IMDb. Maybe something we should check out. He did another TV series called Departure in 2019. And then he's done an episode of FBI Most Wanted and a feature film called Rise, where he plays a governor. That's his last credit on IMDb. Nigerian princess who infiltrates a Boko Haram slave camp to save her kidnapped sister following the murder of her family. So not a comedy. Oh, Jimmy Akambola's in that. I know Jimmy.
I did actually
check that out then.
Last year, Lance, I did a laser review on a film that he was in. He's not in too much, but it's called The Devil's Conspiracy, and he played
I saw that on his credits.
And you know what, awful movie. But when I was watching him, what, he's the best part of that film, and that's why I was annoyed for, because I'm watching the film and I'm like, he's got 15 minutes of airtime, but when he's there, he's fantastic. But it's an awful movie, and I'm like, you know what, you should have had him the entire film because he's on the poster, and the trailer was like, oh, it's about him being Gabriel. And I'm like, okay, Peter Mensah and being Gabriel. And man, when he's on screen, awesome. But I'm like, and that's it. He's got 12, 13 minutes of airtime. And I'm like, oh, man.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we want to see casting directors take note. We want to see more of Peter Mensah on screen. I want to see more of Manu Bennett in stuff. Craig Parker as well. Like Darth Plato says, give him his due. He's great as Glaber. And, it is difficult to pick one. But yeah. Overall rankings for this episode, Inside Man.
Oh, it's a 10.
10.
Couldn't even conceivably think of going any lower than 10. It's just a terrific episode.
Blue Collar.
I'll say 9.
Okay. And Darth.
Decim. 10.
What? 10?
Decim
were you saying that in Roman then, to be clever?
You mean Latin? Yes, I was thinking.
Yeah, thank you. That made me look dumb twice. You did well there.
And by the way, the scene where Spartacus, where Batiatus confronts Salonius in the cell, and Salonius has the state of mind to say, "Well played, I underestimated you." I wasn't expecting him to say that, honestly. Do you think if their roles had been reversed and Batiatus had been in the cell and Salonius had come in, do you think Batiatus would have afforded that courtesy?
Probably not. But Batiatus likes to he's a showman, isn't he? And he likes to lord over people.
Yeah.
So it does fit with his character. I'll give the episode a 10 as well. So wow, that's 39 out of 40.
Thanks, guys.
Pretty high score. Just blue collar.
What a-hole with a 9?
Not
That's
making
it. You let us down, mate.
Too late now. Okay, so we're gonna move on, and we're going to talk about the final episode 13. Do you also have stills for this?
Yep, I actually just got done about 5 minutes ago.
And it's up that many on IMDb. Now, this episode, Kill Them All, subtle title, takes a slightly different narrative. We have seen in episode 1, there's a bit of jumping back and forth with timelines and stuff, but we haven't quite had it done like this. Interesting in the director's commentary that this whole sequence was originally supposed to be shot at night, and the breakout was going to happen at night. And they decided to set the fight at sunset. And of course, this is all green screen, so it's incredibly well lit. It's really well shot. It's kind of believable. You know, sun's coming down. Everyone's got that golden hue, which I really like. This episode is directed by... Let me just get the... let me just get that up. Sorry, I've lost my page now. Too busy checking actors' credits on other films. So, yeah, Kill Them All is directed by Jesse Warren. Writers are Stephen DeKnight, Miranda Kwok, and Todd Helbing. And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting episode. It's the one that we're all waiting for because we know this happens. We know that Spartacus and the gladiators are going to break out, and they do a really good job of stalling our belief about when that's going to happen. They put a lot of obstacles in our way. So it's sunset. Batiatus is addressing everyone. Lithia gives public support to the Ludus on behalf of her husband. Batiatus is doing his big speech. Crixus and Spartacus are fighting, supposedly to the death. And then we get a flashback, and it's 2 days earlier. And we're in training again. There's lots of talk between the disgruntled gladiators, particularly the two Germanic brothers, about, you know, when is this going to happen? When are we going to go for it? When's the right time? And of course, now the Ludus has even more guards than before because, of course, Glaber's men are there in addition to the Ludus detachment. So Ashram Batiatus talk of news of endorsements for his political office. He's quite pleased. Things seem to be going his way. Doctore confronts Batiatus, asked to see him, and says that he has heard that Barker was murdered. But that revelation is told to him after Batiatus tells him because now he sees himself as becoming a senator, or the road to becoming a senator. He's going to entrust the Ludus to Doctore to carry on the father's name. And although we can see Doctore is quite moved by this, he says, "I've heard a rumor, one which has not granted sleep." At which point Batiatus admits that Barker was killed, blaming him for the murder of the family that took place, which is in fact murders that he ordered. So we know that's bullshit. Spartacus and Mira finally get it on. So, yeah, that's can't blame him. We cut back, so we're back to the fight we see at the beginning. So this is the second of several jump cuts. Spartacus and Crixus continue to fight, and Spartacus is sort of saying to Crixus, you know, come on, join with us, kind of thing. And Crixus isn't committed, which means that half the men are also not committed to the cause because they follow Crixus. Then we cut back again. Lithia and Lucretia speak, and this is a great scene. Lucretia basically tells Lithia about the endorsement that she's going to offer in a couple of days' time. and she's going to speak on behalf of her husband. And she's like, well, what words am I supposed to say? Oh, don't worry, I've written them all out for you. Here they are. Basically praising the House of Batiatus and giving it a political endorsement in front of other important guests, which of course will also in turn influence his chances of political office. Crixus and Spartacus, meanwhile, make a promise to each other, depending on which one dies, to look after each other's respective interests and see the downfall of the House of Batiatus. Plot is revealed by Asher and Batiatus to drug Crixus to ensure that Spartacus wins the game. And we cut back to the fight when it's actually taking place. Naevia drops the wine, and she uses a shard of the shattered container to kill the Roman guard so that she can then unlock the gate which separates the training area from the luxurious level of the ludus, as it were, where all the guests and higher-ups live. We then cut back to the morning of the fight. There's discussion about getting Crixus on board. There's Glaber's men very much still dominating the ludus, and in fact, they don't even take orders from Doctore or from Batiatus. When they give orders, then they have to look at Glaber's men. One of them will nod if those orders are to be followed, which is quite an interesting little detail that I thought was put in. The creature comes to see Crixus. She wants to put their troubles behind them and implores on him to say to her that Naevia held no meaning, which he will not. So there's nothing left between us. And he's pretty uncomplimentary to Lucretia, so she knows that this guy never loved him, even though she fell in love with him, which is, again, quite a powerful moment. We cut back to the fight, at which point Crixus is kind of injured, pushed to the floor. Spartacus has deliberately thrown one sword within a reach of another slave, and then he takes his moment, and they do the same maneuver that they performed against Theocles, and Spartacus launches himself up to the top of the ludus, and possibly one of the coolest shots in the entire show when he's making that leap, and you've got the sun behind him. There we go. Yeah, he jumps straight up, sword straight through this senator's head. Lithia senses her chance and quickly departs. Crixus and Doctore immediately begin to argue because Doctore is sort of confused. He doesn't know what to do. Spartacus kills, I counted them, he kills about 10 guys himself. One of the German brothers dies, saving the other. Gradually, the guard left behind are overwhelmed by all the gladiators, although many of the gladiators are killed in the process. Lithia makes her escape out of the ludus and orders the remaining men to seal the doors. We then have a kind of death montage, which is very kind of graphic novel-y, perfect for the show. And then we have a confrontation between Asher and Doctore. Great scene. It's intercut with other scenes, but ultimately results in Doctore being willing to give Asher a quick and clean death, and Asher using that as a chance to stab him in the leg and escape, which is what happens. Batiatus manages to kill one gladiator himself. Numerus is taken by Varro's widow to a place of safety in another room. Asher tricks Doctore and avoids death. I just covered that. Crixus confronts Lucretia, stabs her. Varro's widow, Aurelia, confronts Numerus, stabs him multiple times, and he dies horribly. Bartius is kind of surrounded. Now this is really where he shows his true colors. And yeah, he's surrounded by gladiators. Spartacus is given the honor of killing him. There's a sort of final confrontation, and then his throat is basically cut. It's a great, yeah, that whole sequence is pretty amazing. Yeah, I mean, let's get into it. We'll talk about the story first.
Gladiator does not fear death.
Gladiator's virtues extend beyond the arena. As love.
So we'll go in the following order: Inside Man, Blue, and then Darth. comments on the story? I mean, or anything historical, if you wish. Inside Man.
I'm certainly not sure about the history, but in terms of the story, this is exactly what we wanted. All those building blocks to to deliver, really. I mean, everything. Every one of those individual threads, have now all kind of come to their respective ends. I thought Batiatus, Batty bastard, more like. He was such a shit. No humility, no nothing, no contrition, nothing. And I was hoping at one point that there was going to be a little bit of contrition there somewhere when I first saw this, but no, true to form, he remained the absolute shit that we loathe. Brilliant, just superb. Again, the whole dual timelines and everything, I loved it. I loved the jumping backwards and forwards. We kind of knew what the crescendo was, when we were reaching that crescendo. We knew what the outcome was going to be to a degree. But I love the dual narrative device. I love those different timelines.
Yeah.
I thought the one part that I actually found quite shocking was when Varro's widow killed Numerius.
That bit is, and I mean, she really kills him.
But that was, I mean, it was actually quite shocking, and it was, but it was incredibly satisfying because this jumped up little turd had ordered the death of her beloved husband.
Yeah.
And I thought, everybody got what they deserved. Everybody. So there was such a high degree of satisfaction in every single sense of the word. Yeah.
Yeah, Numerius didn't have any contrition either.
No, none whatsoever. No.
He's a self-entitled rich brat, basically.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And to him, Varro was no different than a common dog. That's all it was. Varro was nothing.
I think it was based on the early life of Trump's son. So Blue Collar, your thoughts?
No, everything Inside Man just said, and I love the writing because the whole scene with Batiatus and Spartacus, because in I think lesser hands you would have had this breaking character Batiatus on his knees and begging and crying and sniveling, and no, like Inside Man said, right into the end, the guy's just he is what he is. And Spartacus wasn't no big dialogue; it's just very subtle. It's like you killed my wife. That's it. There's no reasoning, no rationale. We're not discussing. There's no negotiations. You killed my wife. That's it. You're dead. That's it. And Crixus and Lucretia, just the way he just walks in and she's like, "Oh, Crixus," he says it. There's still something between the two of us. Oh well, I have our child, and the way he looks at her, and I'd rather have it dead. I'm like,
that bit was brutal.
Shit, and it just and also he doesn't kill her. I mean, so she's still alive. I mean, but he stabs her right in the stomach. But again, with Manu Bennett and Crixus, it's not a big scene. It's just very subtle. Just two pieces of dialogue. It's just simple. Move on to the next scene. And right here, it's a very, I think, satisfying conclusion to a great season. And it's, I could see in lesser hands, different people would have made this into a two-parter, and they just would have dragged out all these scenes and dialogue. And no, it's like you can fit into one episode with just concise, tight dialogue, and these scenes are just they're impactful. And you're not getting this big budget where like the whole breakout scene. You're not seeing like 200 slaves fight the Romans. It's just 10 guys get killed.
Darth.
I'm not sure. I think I remember reading somewhere that something like 70 slaves died during the revolt, the real revolt in history. That was, I'm not exactly sure what sort of resistance was there, but that's just a lot of guys.
It's quite unclear as to there. In one report, it just says that the revolt happened and the slaves broke out of the Ludus.
Yeah, I think I remember. Right, go ahead.
Well, and in the other report, it implies that they didn't manage to take over the whole thing. And then, some of them rebelled, killed a load of people, and broke out. So, and it's very minimal. So it's just,
Yeah, we know very little detail. It's like the details aren't written down for like 150 years after the fact, so we really don't know what happened. I think I remember reading somewhere that the incident started in the kitchen, but this obviously didn't start in the kitchen.
No.
But like I said, this is like what you said. Rather, this is like a graphic novel. It's like 300. And that's fine. I think, considering what they're trying to do, I thought they did a great job with it.
Yeah, I have to say it's. But yeah, the story is cracking. I have to say I'm not a big fan of the traditional timeline being messed around, because a lot of people have jumped on that now, and it became a bit of a gimmick. Some people liked it in Dunkirk, some didn't. I wasn't a fan of it in Dunkirk.
You mean
I
non-linear?
found it quite annoying.
Non-linear.
This is a good example of where it works to build tension. There's a reason for it here. It earns its place here. It's justified. And I wasn't sure about how I felt about it when I watched it the first time. It wasn't until I'd watched it a couple more times that I thought, yeah, actually, this builds it really well, because you're constantly cutting back to that fight and you don't know which way it's going to go, and you keep finding out more bits of information, not just about what's happening with the gladiators, but with the Lythia, Lucretia, Batiatus relationship as well. Yeah, really. And the fights in this are good. Quite a few of the gladiators get killed.
By the way, how much time passed between this and the last episode? Because Crixus looked like he's really recovered from his scourging.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, it could be weeks, it could be months, because the last episode just ends with Spartacus training, and that's it. So I mean, you don't really know, do you? But
I noticed that there wasn't really a change in Spartacus's plan. So he was planning on a revolt of the other gladiators before Glaber's men showed up. So how did any of that change with the arrival of Glaber's men? They don't really address that at all. You seem like you think they think that would make it more difficult.
Yeah. I mean, even after a couple of days, well, Crixus, I mean, he's not fully healed, but he did just want to, because Badias wants him to die. So, I mean, a day or two, he just toss him back out there. I mean, and Crixus, at this point, I'm just assuming he's just running on adrenaline.
The standard garrison at the Ludus prior to Glaber leaving, however many men he leaves there, always struck me as around kind of 10 guards, just from the different numbers that you saw, and the number of gladiators probably roughly about 40. And then there's probably another 15 servants on top of that, between 15 and 20 servants. So, it's if everybody suddenly turned around and decided to be mean. But the big issue is that they don't have access to real weapons, and they can't get upstairs because there's that gate.
Because according to Plutarch, it's they seized a cart with weapons, didn't they? There were various sort of sort of pokers and knives, as Darth was saying, that were seized out of the kitchens. Then when they escaped, they actually seized a cart that had a consignment of ordered weapons. So, and that's how they really started to arm themselves after the escape.
Yeah, that's true. Once you arm slaves, they're not laying them down again.
Yeah,
there was an instance in the fourth Ptolemaic Seleucid War where the Ptolemies armed several thousand slaves to give them extra manpower against the Seleucids, because they thought the Seleucids had an overwhelming advantage, and it worked. It worked. The Seleucids were defeated. However, this was the Battle of Raphia. After the Battle of Raphia was over, those men did not lay down their weapons, and it took an entire generation for the Ptolemies to subdue that.
Yeah, that's a really good example to cite, actually. Really good example.
Yeah, because in the one, breakout scene when the slaves revolt, and I really like that whole sequence. And they do. There is a whole thing in that where they kind of like seize kitchen implements and pots are bashed over people's heads, and from what I can recall. So yeah, I really like. That's my favorite scene in the original movie.
Yeah,
really good scene.
And Batiatus survives in the first movie.
Indeed, yes, because he's not there at the time, is he? When it happens. Yeah, and there's no official. I can't remember in the documentation, but I don't think it officially says if and when he died. You don't really know. It's just an assumption. Yeah. So, but yeah, the story for this one is first rate. It's really strong, and it rocks along. So really fast pace.
I mean, having seen this, this being the second viewing that I've had of this, and it was like I was watching it again for the first time. All these things, nothing came flooding back, and it's almost like I'd kind of wiped it from my memory for some unknown reason. And I was so engrossed in this episode, and my heart was absolutely thudding out of my chest. I was so worked up, and when we got to the end of the episode, I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna start weeping in a moment. It was really,
it's
I
very
found it really
emotional.
quite moving, really moving, really moving.
Yeah, the scene with Crixus and Navia kind of being reunited in him is nice. Yeah, there's lots of great moments in it.
Yeah, and I think obviously the terrible bitter sting of knowing that Andy Whitfield had passed as well.
Well, we'll talk about Mr. Whitfield at the end, because I definitely want to get into that. So we'll do characters and cast last, like we just did then. I mean, we don't really need to say too much about it.
They're said to be ravenous beasts.
Make him do it again.
The focus is definitely on the violence in this episode. Not a lot of time for jiggy boom boom sequences. Yeah, really well done. The action, the violence in this episode is excellent. It probably is the most violent episode, and it's been well earned. And then they desaturate the level of violence that you think you're going to see by that sort of cartoonish montage, which I think was the right call.
Yeah,
I don't think we wanted to see lots of scenes of people getting their limbs lopped off and the harsh reality of it. I mean, you got shots like that, so it's not like they're being sparing on it, but I think they showed you just enough. So yeah, Darth, anything to add?
It's the beginning of the Third Servile War, the revolt of Spartacus. I think it's perfectly appropriate. This is where it started. Let the war begin.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Blue?
Yeah, everything you said. I mean, it's the only real violence besides him putting a sword through the guy's head is just a montage. So it's it's a very actually considering it's the ending, not for a show like this, it doesn't have a lot of violence, but because this episode doesn't need it. It's so story driven, and this is the conclusion to all these different small threads between whether it's Spartacus or Batiatus, Lucretia. So it's the conclusion for the end of the season. And yeah, for this episode, it's fine. I mean, it's weird. One of the episodes that has the least amount of violence is the most satisfying.
Yeah, and it's I mean, the moment where Batiatus gets his throat cut is, I mean, again, this show is very good at earning things, giving you those moments just at the right time, and you do really feel they're earned. So it's Inside Man. Anything to add on the violence?
I just love the violence in this. I really do. I'm really, it sounds rather twisted saying that you really enjoy watching violence, but it's because it's very, it's very comic book violence that I enjoy it so much.
For those people watching at home, the Inside Man is coming to us from a padded cell in Cornwall. So
Yeah,
he's under close observation.
yeah.
Please don't
I
fret.
just need my restraints maybe loosened a little bit.
Mm.
But yeah, the violence is earned. I mean, every single one of those deaths is absolutely earned, um, and they're very, very satisfying. There's something, there's something about um, revenge movies and revenge stories that the violence does satisfy us in a very visceral way, in a very base way. Um, and I don't think that's any reflection on us as human beings. I mean, I can't speak for everybody. I can't say that my opinion is that of everybody, everyone that watched it. But I like to see people meet their horrible demise in an act of vengeance, um, and this really delivered.
I think it reflects human nature. We want to see justice served.
Yeah, yeah,
But at the same time, we're also base creatures, and so sometimes we relish a little bit of violence.
mm,
I think that's why people flock to execution scenes like vivisection in Britain or
yeah,
hangings in the Wild West. I think that's why
yeah,
people flock
yeah,
to that.
yeah, yeah.
Because you're combining both. You're combining the spectacle of violence
Mm,
with putting someone that deserves it at the same
mm,
time. Like
Yeah.
in the Wild West, you can go into a town, you can see a coffin sitting upright of a guy with a guy there. It's all shot up because he robbed the bank and he got shot dead.
Yeah.
And there'll be a sign posted there that says, "Behave, obey the law, or this will happen to you."
yeah. I mean,
And I think
it's
that's
funny.
part of it.
It's funny you say that. Then, thinking about it, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but thinking about it, maybe we aren't quite so different as the Roman mobs that did watch these horrendous spectacles in the various amphitheater. Because obviously some of those were executions. They weren't necessarily just gladiators fighting each other.
Yeah.
This one-on-one spectacle. You know,
Or
um,
perhaps not even that far back. I mean, look at the French
mhm,
Revolution or the
yeah.
killing fields.
Of course, of course. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, yeah. Perhaps we're not so different as the ancient Romans as maybe I first thought.
We haven't evolved.
Oh,
You're
So,
yeah.
probably right.
In
right.
some ways, we've gone backwards. I
Yeah,
think in
it's
some
like
ways,
regression.
I would
Yeah.
agree. Plus,
little bit of that going on for
it's
sure.
almost different levels. It's one thing seeing two gladiators fight in an arena or two people out in the street, but yeah, that's the only I guess other violent scene is when his wife Var's wife is stabbing the kid. It's because
Yeah.
there's something more
Mm,
intimate about it because it's not
mm,
just like two grown men fighting, or it's not a quick decapitation. It's like she's like I said, it's not just once or twice. She's just like going in there, just like you bastard.
Yeah, and he's so in shock, and of course he
Oh, yeah.
doesn't do himself any favors because if he'd said the right line,
Made like I'm sorry.
like but he said Varro was nothing. If he'd said Varro was a warrior, he
mm,
died a hero's death.
mm.
If it wasn't then, it would have been in the arena. Shown a bit more wisdom, but unfortunately,
He's proud of it.
yeah, he was and very dismissive.
He could look how it happened. It happened because Alithia went to him and said, "Hey, do this for me." He's
Yeah,
proud of it.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and like even take Varro's death. I mean, it's because we've seen more brutal stuff in this show. We've seen decapitations and guts coming out, and Varro, all it really is just a sword being stuck in like a shoulder blade. But but just because it's Varro and the impact, you can feel every second of it going down. Like,
Mm.
oh man, it's like actually less violent than other stuff, but it's because who it's happening to.
Yeah. Well, let's cover this.
They cheer for blood, and this will have it.
Yeah, now this is a really hard one. My favorite moment is definitely the shot of Spartacus making the leap up to the balcony. It's just such a great moment, and also, of course, it's set up way earlier in the show with the fight against Theocles. So I really like that shot. Dialogue. I think probably the dialogue scene between, and it's brilliant performances from the cast as well, and we'll talk about the cast last. Brilliant performances from Lucy Lawless and Manu Bennett, and the whole scene of, she's still in love with him even after the betrayal. She's still in love with him. He still holds power over her,
Also,
especially because she knows it's his son.
Yeah,
I have to ask you, did you notice too with Crixus, where he looks at Spartacus, he taps it, he's like this, it's like that, like there's no dialogue, he just gives him that look of like, hey, dude,
yeah,
he just hits like that, and like in Spartacus, he reads it like, oh, I know what we're doing.
But I really like that dialogue scene between the two of them for the acting and stuff.
Yeah, I was kind of honestly, I was kind of wondering if Crixus was going to do like a Lucy with the football and just kind of step back and just sort of stab Spartacus when he thought he was gonna...
Well, he could have done. He could have sliced his legs off if he was going to go that road. But yeah, that's my favorite one. Darth, what's yours?
Well, I'm going to follow up on what you said about the Spartacus leaping through the air, because that I mentioned that in the first episode, that this is the moment, certainly one of the moments of the sword of Damocles. In this case, it's the sword of Spartacus. The look on Bardiatus' face when he realizes how in danger he is. That's like the very moment of his realization, his sword of Damocles moment. But the answer I want to give is as far as my favorite scene, like I'm not going to gainsay all you guys; those are all amazing scenes. But for me, what I thought was the best scene was the scene where Crixus sits down, Spartacus sits down, and they're just having that conversation about the future and what they're going to do. And Crixus says, in another life we could have been brothers. And they make that promise to each other. If I fall, you continue on. If you kill me, it's just an amazing scene. Yeah, and that's the same going with.
Yeah, Blue.
Yeah, jump up. My favorite dialogue, like I said, with Crixus and Lucretia, because Crixus, our child, and just the way he looks at it, he's like, I would rather see it dead. I'm like, oh damn.
Yeah, well, that's why I said that scene. Yeah.
And her like the look on her face of just like, yeah, and all he does is just stabs her in the stomach, and I'm like, oh, it's
believe it.
Yeah, it's like because like I said, because she's still in love with this guy. Because
and I think she also thinks she has some sort of hold over him. She doesn't realize, because she also feels he's beneath her. She doesn't realize how much she repulses him.
Well, yeah,
okay.
No, that's it. And so many people nowadays, how many women, women, they get pregnant and they want to trap a guy in a relationship they don't want to be in.
Is the stomach actually, does he actually pierce the stomach? Because if that's true, she wouldn't have survived.
You don't see, like, all you do is you hear it, and then afterwards you see her holding her stomach. Like, I don't know where exactly he put the sword in, but he did stab her somewhere.
Yeah. The point I'm trying to make is it wasn't until the 20th century that a stomach injury, when the stomach is pierced, whether by gunshot or a blade, that was 100% fatal. You never survived that because of the toxins that are in the stomach. It gets it because you get blood poisoning.
Bile, yeah.
That was not treatable until the 20th century.
Yeah, well, I guess just not too much historical accuracy.
No, well, yeah, indeed. Inside Man.
Well, this is probably one of the toughest ones to choose from. I have to agree. If I'm going to pick my absolute pinnacle scene, I have to agree with Darth Plato. I've got to be honest. I think that's an absolutely wonderful, wonderful scene, incredibly powerful, and we get at least an inkling of some kind of bond between them. A true bond between them. An appreciation of each other.
Yeah, but they've been fighting all season. They've been fighting since day one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's this moment where it's not even sudden. It's it's they do now have they have an understanding of each other's um common goals and what each other are about finally, um and that they are brothers, in a sense, but
Yeah.
also I have to say, the scene between Lucretia and Crixus, when he sort of spurns her, if you like, and she suddenly becomes the woman scorned. That was just, yeah. That was obviously that was her turning point. But yeah, my favourite scene, it's Crixus and Spartacus. Yeah,
Also, that scene, little part of dialogue when Spartacus says to him, he's like, "Well, Crix is like, I'll be reunited with her. I'll get her back." He's like, "Yeah, the same way I got my wife back."
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
let's before we wrap up, we'll cover this.
I swear to be burned, chained, beaten.
So we'll talk about Andy Whitfield last. One of the things that really drew me to this series really was the quality of the acting. And I mean, Peter Mensa, John Hannah, Manu Bennett, Nikki Tarabay, Katrina Law, Lucy Lawless, are all like first class. And you've got a number of very decent people in supporting roles as well, below them. But there's also I think the shoot must have been, everyone must have had a good time, because the chemistry between the cast is really very present in the show throughout. That's something I really noticed. And that if you have that authenticity, that natural chemistry, especially with a group of actors that are working together, you cast 20 men in a unit of soldiers, you want them to, on screen, to feel like they're 20 men who've been training together for 2 years or whatever. So that sense of camaraderie is there. I imagine it must have been quite weird when they were losing people. When Jai Courtney had to leave because he was killed, must have been quite strange to sort of come on set and he's not there. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the acting is first class. What can we say?
I think you actually made a very good point there about, certainly with the gladiators, the way they are with each other. And this is where I think the beauty of these boot camps that they have, these training sessions that they have, they're not just for training, they are genuine bonding sessions. I know it sounds very kind of hippie trippy and all that kind of stuff, but if you're going to have that kind of chemistry between these actors that will be spending months and months and months, possibly even a year together, you have to do something to encourage that, to sort of foster that bonding. And those boot camps are a great way of doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know the infamous remember the Fellowship of the Ring had all 9 actors got matching tattoos.
Yeah.
And that's
right,
something they'll take with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. I mean, it's very strange. Having worked on so many different things over the years, and but when you are on something for a prolonged period of time, excuse me, you do, and you're seeing these people, for 10 months, every day, more or less every day, for 10 months, and you're spending an inordinate amount of time with them, not just your working time, but your downtime as well. And then you do form a very, very strong bond with them.
Yeah.
And we do see it in a lot of films now, and it's a very, very important process, I think. it's not. Excuse me. It's although it does seem forced and somewhat artificial. It is an important process for the cast to go through, I think.
Yeah, very true. So if you
what you're talking about, that there's
Sorry,
also
Bob, go ahead.
the camaraderie of war.
Yeah.
Like soldiers on the front. What we're
Yeah.
seeing in the Gladiator School is even more profound than that.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. I absolutely agree with that.
So, if each of you had to pick a favorite character, not a favorite actor, favorite character, throughout the show, who would your favorite character be? And I'll go first. I mean, hands down, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's going to pick this. Mine has to be Batiatus, because I just love watching his scenes. It's actually a toss up between him and Lucretia, because they're such a good double act. I really love them and their scenes together. But yeah, Batiatus is just like, every time he's doing a scene, I'm always gripped. I'm always hooked. You know. Darth, do you have one?
I gotta say, maybe it's because I just don't know anything about acting, but I honestly can't choose one person. And there's so many aspects of the show that I like that I just don't feel like I could just take one person over the other. I mean, Andy Whitfield.
Well, it's just more of a favorite character rather than the actor.
Fair enough. I wasn't really making a distinction in my mind though, because the characterization on the screen, I don't know.
Right there,
they're all just amazing. I like Crixus. I like Doctore, but not for the same reasons. I like Batiatus because he just makes you just hate his guts. The same with Lucretia, and it's probably going to come into that four people. Batiatus, Lucretia, Spartacus, Crixus. It's probably going to be for me. It's going to be those four people. Who's the best among those four? I honestly can't say. I can't give you a better answer than that. I'm sorry.
No, that's right. That answer is more than sufficient. Blue.
No, I said it from episode 1. Yeah, I love the cast, love everybody, but for me, Crixus and Man of Bennett is my favorite character. And I'll just say it for Inside Man. It's look at episode 1 Crixus, look at episode 13 Crixus. And who doesn't love a character arc?
Yeah, he has the best arc, I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has the best arc.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. That's good.
Yeah.
But but it's and everybody said from obviously later on Andy Whitfield, but like Lucy Lawless but the entire cast, we could spend all day talking about the entire cast, even the side characters that were killed off. I mean, a lot of people hate Jai Courtney. I mean, how many people joke about Jai Courtney as an awful actor? Not in this show, he's not.
No, I think he's good in this show.
That's what I'm saying. Like nobody, Asher, I mean, said the entire cast brings their A game. He's just my one. But I mean, if anybody said their favorite said Spartacus or Batiatus or Lucretia, I couldn't fault them.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Inside Man to say Alithia.
Yeah, well, Inside Man.
But I mean, maybe she's a good actress still, playing a very good villain you want to hate. So
yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with her. I think she's fine. So Inside Man, your favorite character?
It has to be Crixus.
Crixus.
It absolutely has to be Crixus.
He's gone very quiet all of a sudden.
For every single reason that
passionate.
Yeah, for all the reasons that you've said, the best character arc, and he's been very, very consistent. I kind of feel like I've been on more of a journey with Crixus than any of the other characters. Although I have to say that Alithia, for the first 4 episodes, absolutely irritated the hell out of me. I just didn't like the way she was acting. But come episode 5 and 6, she suddenly started getting into a little bit more of a groove, as it were. But yeah, up to episode 4, I absolutely loathed her. But Crixus, above and beyond anybody else for me.
Fantastic. Well, we need to talk about Mr. Whitfield. So if we could have a still up of him, please. Doesn't really matter which one.
Actually, the best one.
And
Yeah.
as
No, the one where he says, "I'm Spartacus" in the arena.
when he was in training for season 2, which began straight away. That season 2 was commissioned, I think, before season 1 even finished.
Yeah.
He started feeling a pain in his lower back, and that led to a cancer diagnosis, particular type of cancer, pretty difficult to defeat. Went straight into treatment, and as a result of that, we got, because the production was so committed to him, and I think this is a particularly nice story, and you don't hear of this very often in the showbiz world, that this production team put the show on hold and thought, well, what can we do in the interim? We're going to put season 2 on hold to see if Andy gets better. So they came up with the 6-part miniseries of Gods of the Arena. And the reason that they knew that that miniseries would work so well is that everybody loved John Hannah and Lucretia and Lucy Lawless's characters, Batiatus and Lucretia. So why not bring them back and let's see what happened in the year or two before this. And it's brilliant because it also sets up Salonius and Batiatus are great mates at the beginning of that. They're practically like they call, refer to each other as brother, and you gradually see that friendship fall apart and turn to betrayal. And it's mainly about Batiatus's ego that causes the problem. But I thought that was a stroke of genius. I think I mentioned this before, but when I started watching this show the first time, which I binged with my ex-partner, we were halfway through the show when we vaguely recalled something about the lead actor being ill. And she Googled it when we were watching like episode 7. And that was when she said, "Oh my God, he's dead," So we were sort of right in the middle of, I guess we watched it over 2 days, and it's a pretty intense show to watch over 2 days. So that put a whole different emotional spin on the movie, on the show for me, knowing that this guy who is depicted as this almost unstoppable warrior on the show had lost his own personal battle, offset. Yeah, and I was really, might be said by some that I'm a sensitive guy, and that hit me really hard. I found watching the rest of the show very difficult. Because I didn't see it when it came out. People kept telling me to watch it, and I was like, well, I'm in the middle of shooting a movie, so I can't do it. You don't tend to watch much TV when you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to start shooting on set at 5 or whatever. And he was incredibly brave about the whole thing, and really quite courageous.
I found a very beautiful picture. This is him holding his son, which that's
oh my God, I've seen that photo.
Yeah, it's really touching.
I think that's one of the last pictures taken of him.
And there's documentaries about it, so, and it's just great.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually show the trailer for that, Doc.
Okay,
I've got that all queued up and ready.
Yeah.
Good
on him.
But there, one of the quotes.
There you go.
I just found a comment of my own. Damn, look at this. On one of the things. So you've actually got Jai Courtney talking here. And if you look at the comment at the top, 10 years ago, one hell of a brave man, an example to so many, you are missed. That was me, the Outcast creative. It's so weird to think I put that comment there 10 years ago, and I think about everything that's happened in my own life since then. It's funny how TV shows and films connect to you in that way.
Yeah.
They have these tangible connections to things that were going on with you at the time. And I actually look back on this show in my own life as a time of great joy, because I was in a fantastic relationship, very loving partner that I cared about dearly. And, you know, we were planning a whole life together, and that life that I had then doesn't exist anymore. So watching this show has this whole other layer for me, not just how we found out about Andy during when we were watching it, but when I look back on it and I watch it again, it has this kind of dual layer of looking back fondly on that was a great, you know, that was a great experience. I really enjoyed watching this show and experiencing it with the person I cared about most in the world. That really meant something to me. I always enjoy watching films or TV shows with other people because it's the shared experience that I always think is so unique. And, you know, you talk about it afterwards, and you look forward to the next episodes and so forth. But yeah, Blue, did you want to chip in?
I know. Yeah, no, I mean, and you guys know this. I mean, I don't Plato doesn't. I don't talk to him as much as you and Inside Man, but that's why I said, man, when my father passed away months before Iron Man came out, and my dad got me into comics, so you know, I did the whole cliche. Went to go see Iron Man. Wish I mean, it would have been so great for my dad to finally see. Remember, as a guy grew up in the 60s and 70s with these comics, seeing Robert Downey. So I did the cliche buying 2 tickets that day to go see Iron Man.
Oh, mate, I bet you must have cried.
Oh, of course, yeah. I'm just like, Dad, hey, you know, it's like so of course, and you guys know this in the snake eating its tail. So every time a new something comes out, you know, as my dad would do with me, I do with my son, you know, especially I love and told you guys, Band of Brothers. I mean, Band of Brothers came out before my kid was born. Spartacus came out. My son was like 2, but reliving all this stuff with these people, it's so magical, man. It's great. And like you said, Lance, there's so many different. I love revisiting things, you know, different parts of your life, you know, watching a film at 5, watching it at 25, watching it at 50. It's amazing how some films either get better with age or get worse with age.
Yeah.
Or TV shows. And this TV show, I'm glad I've not watched this show in a good, probably, you know, good like 8-9 years now. And just revisiting this show, it's like, man, it shows you how all of us miss great television and TV.
A comment from Ryan Randall. Andy really put his A game into Spartacus and was the perfect actor to keep me watching. Such a shame about his passing. R.I.P. Long live Spartacus. Indeed. Inside Man.
Yeah, it's quite difficult for me to talk about it without actually feeling quite choked up. I mean, I was talking to one of my sons earlier on about it, and I actually felt quite emotional just kind of going over, you know, talking about the end of the show and about Andy Whitfield. What a terrible loss! What a terrible loss for a wonderful young man that, you know, from appearances, you know, was absolutely in his prime. And was destined for something incredibly big. I mean, as if this wasn't big enough, he was really destined for something, you know, really, really great and wonderful. It's it's I mean, it must have been a terrible wrench for his family. I mean, a wonderful actor, a lovely guy by all accounts. You know, a lovely human being.
That's what I heard as well. Really nice guy.
You know, and I don't know, just going beyond the series. Although, you know, I have seen Gods of the Arena and War of the Damned. You know, he was really the thing. You know, he is Spartacus, and have Spartacus without the original actor is, he is a very difficult act to follow. There's no question
Were they right to continue the show, or should they have knocked it on the head there?
I think so. I think they were right to continue it.
Yeah.
I think I think it's a wonderful legacy, really, and of course, this is always going to be the show that everybody defers to. It's almost this is going to be the default series in all of them. I think because he is so good in it. Yeah, just terrible. Truly, truly tragic.
Yeah, he passed away on September the 11th, 2011. And Spartacus was supposed to have been born in the year something like 111 BC, which is an interesting, coincidence, if you like. Andy was married to Vashti Whitfield. I only know what I know about this woman from the documentary, which I have seen. And we'll watch the trailer for that in a second. And you know what they say, behind every great man is a great woman, sort of thing. And you can see what a dedicated family man he was in that documentary. You can see how in love they are as a pairing. I mean, I'd like to think, because I'm a romantic at heart, they would have been one of those couples that would have survived the Hollywood meat grinder, because he rose to fame outside of that meat grinder, because it was an Australian production. So, and often people that don't start in it, I think have a better chance of, not being married and divorced 3 times. So I'd like to think, and I would have put money on it, that they would have stayed as the family that they were, had his life not been so unfairly cut short. He has 2 children, and it's not getting quite emotional now. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that they might watch this stream one day. So I just want to say to them that they should be incredibly proud of their father. Because not many kids get sort of this very visceral legacy of either parent or their dad, whatever. And it's always going to be there, and they can look back and really be proud of him, and not only know that he was an incredibly talented man, but he fought with every breath in his body to try and defeat his illness, and it just wasn't enough, So my heart goes out to them. Oh dear, sorry about that.
Not cancer. It's to this day, man. It's 2024. It's amazing. We're still losing people to it. That's why there's just so much awareness about it, man.
While I recompose myself, let's watch the trailer for the documentary.
The story is about an everyman who is forced to fight for his own survival. However, many times they knock him down, he will get up and fight and never ever stop. There's certainly parts of me that I can identify with that. Season 1 of Spartacus is finished, and I was in a lot of pain at the end of that. I wasn't sure what it was, and it wasn't going away.
I got a call saying, "Hun, I'm in trouble. I think I've got cancer."
And they said, if you do nothing, you'll be dead within 3 to 6 months. This is huge. And terrifying.
You can do this, Andy. What I want for us now is to be really clear about what we want from this journey, and that is to just learn from each other, grow from it, and not be frightened by it.
We're all in it together and getting through it as a family.
Love you. Yeah, I'm going to be fine.
In my heart, I am convinced that this is all meant to be, and I'm open to the adventure of all of this. I feel fine, and I look really well. It's going to be the end of it.
Well, it's just not good news at all.
It doesn't matter if we are successful or not. It's about the journey.
I've got one hair left on my chin.
And if you commit to it, something extraordinary will come of it.
Who was that?
That was Kelly. She snuck a kiss.
Be here now. It's all about being present and not fearing what you don't know. And so I feel really inspired to do this, even though I have no idea how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to keep my camera off now.
Powerful, man.
Yeah. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that documentary, I highly recommend it. Obviously, you know, you're going to know how it ends, so keep the tissues handy. But, you know, it is an uplifting story because he fought to the very end. And my understanding as well is that the production company that produced Spartacus Stars, you know, really looked after the family. I think at his funeral, the pallbearers were all gladiators from the show, you know.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, it's just, I don't know, it's surreal when you think about it.
It is surreal. It is. I mean, I know, you know, everybody's life is going to be tinged with tragedy at some point or other. You know, we know that. You know? But it doesn't mean that we have any less empathy for anybody else.
Mm.
You know, and I'm not sure if I'd be able to watch that, if I'm completely honest. I'd like to think that I could.
It's hard. It's a hard watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rewarding in the same way that I'm sure the Christopher Reeve documentary is going to be rewarding. It's going to leave many a grown man weeping.
It's like I'm half looking forward to watching it. I'm also dreading it at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I get you completely on that. I get you completely. So that was Spartacus Blood and Sand season 1, which launched the career of the late great Andy Whitfield. I mean, I really loved his performance as Spartacus, which we talked about other cast members. I said we'd hold off on him until the end. So we should also speak about his performance. Like I said, I compared him to the actor in Avatar. They have quite a similar look and a similar voice. And
Sam Worthington.
Sam Worthington, yeah. But I think Whitfield had something more, that sort of undefinable quality. And it might just be that sometimes when people are a really nice person in real life and they project that kind of energy most of the time.
I see some similarities there with their, I can see, you know.
Yeah. I think that sort of energy radiates and impacts the people around them. And, you know, people were always saying what a nice guy he was to work with. So,
yeah, I hear what you're saying about the indescribable quality. You're talking about je ne sais quoi, something you can't quite put your finger on, but you know it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a huge loss, and you know.
But look at what he's left us with. You know, I mean, an incredible piece of work. You know, that's you You know, I mean, we're watching this, you know, over a decade later, and talking about this over a decade later, and a
Yeah.
decade from now, people will still be saying exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, even though the technology aspects of the show will, I guess, date even more over time, as long as people understand that this is based on a graphic novel, this version of Spartacus. So what you're seeing is the graphic novel brought to life.
Yeah.
Then it should stand the test of time.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because this looks exactly how it was intended to look. And if there's one thing that I will say, and I absolutely take my hat off to them, considering the amount of directors that this series had, I mean, they all remained on exactly the same page in terms of the direction. You know, nobody kind of strayed or veered off, or you know, appeared to want to do their own thing and put their own stamp on it. It was, you know, obviously guided by wonderful showrunners and producers that have really created this quite amazing series.
Yeah, fantastic. Blue, any final thoughts on any of that?
No, you know, it's been a great time. Plato, Inside Man, you, Lance, even when Leroy's been here talking about this show, reliving it. 13 episodes, fantastic. I know eventually you'll cover more if I can be available, if I can't be. But like, you know, these are obviously very big shoes to fill. But I think the prequel was the way to go. And when you guys get into it, you know, it's like the following seasons, the actor replacing it, you know, it's I think he did a very good job
He
considering.
did do a very good job. We
Yeah.
do have
Yeah.
to take our hat off to Liam McIntyre.
Definitely,
I mean,
yeah.
most actors would have run a mile from
Yeah.
doing the job in the first place. And
Wasn't
they
he
had-
second place the first time around?
Yeah, he did audition for the show originally.
Wow.
I do believe that is true, actually. But I'll double check on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he did a good job, and he kind of got the look.
Yeah.
Similar voice, you know, not too different.
I mean, he's definitely not. I mean, his appearance isn't Andy, but you can tell like they seem like these guys are, you know, they're not too dissimilar either. It said he had the look on it.
Yeah, and I you know, I heard the cast were very welcoming, and
Yeah.
Manu Bennett in particular, I think, took him under his wing, and you know, because for it to work, I think that's probably quite important that happened. There
That's
were
really
a
cool.
couple of other recastings in the Navia. Was it? I forget whether it was Navia or
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Navia was recast. Yeah,
Navia was recast with Cynthia Addie Robinson, who's currently in Rings of Power. Yeah. So, but fortunately, Katrina Law still in the show. So there were a couple of cast change ups, and then you had Dustin Clare come back, who was in the prequel, and his character was a great character. So you had him in the show as well, which worked. Now we probably will do seasons 2 and 3, but it won't be this year. If we pick them, if we digest them, that we'll probably do that next year. And I wasn't originally planning on doing Spartacus this year, but I thought I didn't want to leave it too long to honor Andy Whitfield's memory. I felt the sooner I did that, the better. Before I forgot about the experience of what it meant to me at the time, which I'm sure will resonate with some other people. But we will come back and probably do the prequel first, Gods of the Arena. Highly recommend that if you haven't seen it. I would say this prequel miniseries is as good as season 1. It's shorter, but all of the things that make season 1 great are in this. I think seasons 2 and 3 are fine, but you know, they are what they are. It's playing a bit of catch up in a sense, but still very good, and great to see all the early kind of machinations of the Salonius Spartacus relationship and other characters like the lady on the right who were around in the early days. So yeah, it was good. So overall, what would you guys? Did we do ratings for the final episode yet? Is it just a 10 from all of us?
I mean,
no.
Well, it's a 10 from me.
It's a 10 from me.
Yeah, Sam.
10. Take them.
We were waiting. I was putting my finger on the eject button. Oh, Darth Vader, we seem to have lost communication. Well, that's 40 out of 40, which no show has. Oh, I think Band of Brothers we got maybe.
Wow,
yeah,
that's the high bar there.
Band of Brothers, we had a couple of 40 out of 40s. Yeah, well deserved.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So next week, a bit of a change of pace. Myself and the Inside Man are going to be delving into the best and the worst of the Warriors of the Apocalypse. Any film that kind of is a B movie that rips off the Mad Max or sort of post-apocalyptic genre, we are taking to task. We're going to be looking at the best and the worst of those. Now, most of them came from Italy, but not all of them. There were some that were products of other places, including Malaysia and stuff like that. So we're going to have to make a pretty big list. So that's going to be next week at the same time. And we're going to do probably do something like, our 3 favorite and our 3 worst after we've had a massive discussion about all the rest.
Yeah.
So should be
or a massive argument.
Well, indeed. Hey, we won't reveal our choices to each other until we're doing them. So
right, okay.
That's how that's gonna work. This is a cover art from Bronx Warriors 2. What these films all do have in common, which I'm sure is a universally agreed fact, is that they all have fantastic poster artwork.
Yeah.
That often tricked the video renter into believing they were going to see more spectacle and action than was actually contained within the cassette. But some of them were pretty decent, and
yeah,
there's even some of the ones that are really kitsch and hokey. There's some fun to be found, and then there are some that are just truly terrible.
I'm going to cheat a little bit and ask you to reveal one now. How would you rank Furiosa and all that?
How would I rank which one?
The new Furiosa.
Oh, okay. Well, the category next week is only for films that, sorry, I should have mentioned this, that come out between 1982 and 1992. So the films have to be released within that timeline because I wanted to limit it a bit. However, I liked the Furiosa film. I only saw it a couple of weeks ago, and I really rated it. I actually liked it as much, if not slightly more than the Tom Hardy Mad Max. Controversial.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just I didn't like the mumble performance of the Mad Max. I want to hear what he's saying. I just didn't like the mumble thing. And I know Hardy's done that with a couple of characters. He doesn't do it so much now, but there was a phase where it was like, okay.
Yeah. And people are trying to say that it's not actually Mac, it's the thorough kid from Road Warrior.
Right. Well, that's fine. Could well be. I wonder what that actor looks like now.
He's not. It's not the same guy.
No, I mean I know that. But then in 2 weeks' time, we are going to be breaking down and talking about one of the best, if not the best, cop show of all time.
I'm a different kind of cop. We knock down the doors other cops don't want to.
fire from every scumbag in town. They didn't earn it. I don't feel bad about taking it.
It's all about bringing force down on the street. Why don't y'all take a look at what you got going on under your own roof?
I never put the money above us.
How long you think that's gonna last?
I don't want Vic in our lives anymore.
You're investigating me? Vic Mackey beats suspects. He deals drugs.
And that's just all in one day. I wonder what he's gonna do tomorrow.
Everybody down! Hey, my day's just getting started.
I can't wait to get into that because it's such an amazing show.
Yes,
what was that? Was that the Bill?
The Bill, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
The British dreary,
I never saw it. Never saw
dreary,
it.
unexciting police drama that ran forever. Occasionally had some good episodes, but God, it was boring most of the time. It was just boring. So The Shield, not The Bill. Yeah, have you seen it, Inside Man?
I've never seen an episode.
Well, do you know what? I hope I can count on you to take part because you're going to love it, I think.
Right. Okay. I'll have to do something about that then.
You will. You will have to do something about that.
And how many seasons is it?
And where
can we watch it?
Well, I've got the Blu-ray.
Hulu should have an FX because it was an FX show.
Behind me. So I believe that the entire series, somebody told me, I think might be on Amazon.
I'm pretty sure it's on Hulu. So, yep.
It is on Hulu, but
Yep.
I think somebody just told me it's just dropped on Amazon.
It's also 7 seasons long.
I have the entire show here, and I've got them on my computer as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and these are all uncut as well, which is great. There's loads of extras. I've watched this entire show 4 times, and I'm about to watch it for the 5th time.
I can't blame you. It's a
and I'm
great
hoping
show.
to get some guests from the show on. I've got 1 confirmed already, and I'm hoping more will follow. So, we'll see. Hopefully, I can get them on. Of course, another thing to mention is that I have an industry interview tomorrow, which is happening sort of quite last minute. It's another quite moving story. When aren't they? A pair of twins, the Stretton Downs brothers. Johnny Stretton Downs, or Jonathan Stretton Downs, was one of the producers on my film The Journey. He was kind of came in late on the production during post-production, but he was really, really helpful. Now, I didn't know that Johnny had issues with his heart, and throughout his life, particularly in the last few years of his life, he had open heart surgery 6 times, which, as you know, for any one individual, that is quite a lot.
Yeah.
Sadly, he passed away at the beginning of 2023. And his brother made this documentary, 6 Times Open. So it has its London premiere, I think, this week. And so I invited him to come on and talk about it. We're going to talk about his brother. If you go on YouTube and you watch the Journey premiere video, which is it's on the Outcast channel, just type in the Journey world premiere or whatever, and you'll see a guy with a bow tie and a tux open the door to the cinema at one point. That is Johnny Stretton Downs, who was looking very dapper at the premiere. And the first time I knew he was ill was when we were doing Pegasus Bridge, and I realized we were getting fucked and I needed some new producers. And I remember him being particularly good, so I called him and said, look, do you want to come on the new film? I need help here. And he said, I can't. I've got some serious health issues at the moment, and I just can't do anything stressful. And I mean, that would have been 2017, I think. Now that's an interesting debate, which is going to come up a lot when we're doing the Shield stream. Ryan thinks The Wire is better. Well, The Wire, in my view, is not strictly a cop show because each season is about a section of society. It's not strictly a police show. I think The Shield is the best police show ever made. If you could make an argument that The Wire is the best crime drama ever made because all of the elements are connected to crime, but it's technically not a police show. But it is a great show, absolutely fantastic.
I'm curious to see what you think about The Shield. Although I've never seen The Shield, I know it's I assume it's set in the United States. So I'm curious to how people outside the United States view American law enforcement.
It was really, really popular over here. I used to watch it on Channel 4 at 10 o'clock. And they started showing 2 episodes a week at one point. Darth, you'd be very welcome to come on it if you know. We're going to do 2 episodes a week, so it's going to be a similar thing. I'm just going to do season 1 first. I want to do the whole thing, so I'll see how I feel at the end of season 1 if I want to break to switch to something else.
What city is it in?
Los Angeles, because it's set in the wake of Rampart scandal.
Oh my God! Yeah, I remember reading about that. Yeah, that's a lot of drama there.
I mean, this show definitely would not get made today.
Oh hell no!
It's really in your face. It's really controversial, but all the better for it.
Yeah,
and as an absolutely amazing cast, and I've spoken to some of them before, and I'm like I said, I've got one of them's agreed to come on already. I'm hoping to get more. So we'll see what happens. Word and Pictures says, "Hi, I'm new. I saw Lance. You did see me on Jill's stream. Do you dual cast and watch the shows on Cosme? What does that mean? I don't know what that means."
Look it up. I've heard it.
Ryan, my understanding is that The Shield is in the UK. I think it's on Amazon. Someone told me. I mean, I've got the physical copies of it, so but I think it's on Amazon.
Oh, Cosme it's a hosting site.
Dan Candy says, "Second to Chips." Nice
one, Dan.
I remember watching that and thinking, God, how cool it would be to be a Californian highway patrolman with your cool bike, cool uniform.
Fun fact: they still wear those uniforms.
Yeah,
I've seen them. Yeah. I'm in California. I still see them. The motorcycle cops do wear those uniforms still.
Wow.
I felt Eric Estrada's was especially tight.
And, it's funny. One time I was sitting in an intersection and a CHP guy on a motorcycle came up on my driver's side. That's the left side for those of you outside the United States. And I started humming the Chips tune. I was not being quiet about it, and I kind of looked over, and he was kind of looking at me like, yeah.
Cosme is a hosting website where you can stream copyright material. Well, that means that I could stream my mega cut of Bridge Too Far there, which would be good because I'm looking for somewhere to do that. No, these are not going to be watch parties, so we're just going to go straight in and talk about each episode, pretty similar fashion to how we've done Spartacus. We'll break it down, story and script, actors and characters, and best moment, best moment, favorite line. It'll probably be those 3 things and kind of overall thoughts. So so that's it. God, it's a long one. We've come up to 3 hours. Mind you, we did 3 episodes, didn't we? So
can I just quickly say something just before we go?
Of course you can.
The first thing is, Lance, thank you so much for inviting me onto these. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I really, really do appreciate it. Darth Plato, what a pleasure to have your knowledge and your contribution to these streams. It's been an absolute pleasure being with you on them. And hopefully we'll be on further streams again and again and again. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And Blue, what can I say? What can I say, Blue? I mean, without your contribution, mate, without everything that you do for these streams, and all of those, not just you talking about them, but also your contribution towards getting the stills and everything, the stills galleries for each of the episodes.
Yeah.
The effort that you put in, they just wouldn't be the same. So thank you to all three of you. It's been an absolute pleasure doing these streams with all of you.
And as I've said, this show is very hard to make stills.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff you can't
Yeah.
show, and it's a shame that we lost History Bro, but I feel the shortness of the men's togas was just a cut too high for him.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for saying so.
Pleasure.
No, not at all. And sentiments I very much agree with where both of you are concerned. Yeah, and Blue, again, I do. If I don't say it enough, I really do appreciate
of course, man.
And it just makes everything
I have fun doing
go a
it.
little smoother because I can focus on other things like making shitloads of notes, which is great. Also, the people in chat, we don't always get the biggest numbers live, but people do seem to like these because the viewing figures on them have done pretty well. And I don't know about going earlier on a Sunday, but 8 o'clock till 10 is pretty good because I'm trying not to clash with other people's things, but it's getting more and more harder to avoid that, unfortunately. But yeah, can't wait until next week where me and the Inside Man are going to get to talk about all kinds of tasty treats. Like the 2020 Texas Gladiators, Bronx Warriors, Escape from the Bronx, Endgame, Rush, The New Barbarians, Warrior of the Lost World, 2019 After the Fall in New York, The Exterminators of the Year 3000, The Atlantis Interceptors, that one is particularly terrible, Rome 2033, The Fighter Centurions, and so forth. There are literally loads of these.
And I believe most of them are actually on YouTube.
Yeah, quite a lot of them are. Yeah, there's some that I'm going to have to. I've got some on Blu-ray. Got Bronx Warriors 2, and The New Barbarians on Blu-ray. But I am going to have to rewatch a couple. I just rewatched Warriors of the Lost World, which was one of the ones that I thought was better at the time. So one of my favorites of that genre is actually called Wheels of Fire.
Yeah, that's on YouTube.
Yeah, so if you can try and watch that, Inside Man, that would be good. So we both
Wheels of Fire, the Bronx Warrior movies, they're on YouTube.
Yeah,
because I think they're both Enzo Castellari directed those.
Yeah, that's right.
Warriors of the Wasteland, another Enzo Castellari, that's also on YouTube. Yeah, loads of them, easy to find.
Yeah, and I mean we can include things like Metal Storm. Which technically is in space, but sort of not really because there aren't any scenes on spaceships. So as long as there's no scenes on spaceships, things can, those kinds of movies can be included.
Yeah.
As long as we're not traveling to different planets, then it's much more kind of it's a different subgenre.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Words and Pictures. Do join us next Sunday. That should be a fun stream. Right, I think that's it from us. This has been a good one. It's been quite emotional. But I feel like I think we honored. That's what I really wanted to do with this stream. I really wanted to honor the memory of Andy Whitfield, which is why I put the dedication up at the beginning of every episode. And I felt like we really got to do that tonight. And I wanted to kind of save it till the last episode. Can't have a grown men weeping every week. So, Blue, anything you want to plug?
No, I have to work on I'm back to my videos, but I get sick. But I'll let you know when my new stuff's ready. I do want to see that Lawrence Fishburne movie tomorrow. I've been backing up on it. Just, so much stuff got going on.
Got the Nielsen ratings on Tuesday, my weekly show at 10 o'clock, which is 5 p.m. East Coast, 1 p.m. I think it's 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. West Coast, where we talk about films and shows we've watched, whether they're old or new. We will be discussing the new Terminator animated series. We'll also, no doubt, myself and the Inside Man will probably talk about a couple of post-apocalyptic movies we've been watching in preparation for our stream. So it should be a lot of fun. Darth or Inside Man, do you guys need to plug anything?
Sorry, Darth, please go ahead.
when I'll plug my book when I finally get around to finishing it.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Look forward to hearing more about that later.
Yeah.
Inside Man.
Well, on Friday, this coming Friday, I'm on the Northern English Bastards Jaws stream, along with Critical and Fandad Menace. So we'll be talking about all things Jaws. And of course, back with you on Tuesday for the Nielsen ratings, which I always look forward to.
Fabulous. That's it from us. Don't forget to tell the people that you care about that you love them, a message which seems especially appropriate tonight.